Good evening, everybody. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Okay, I now call the May 5th, 2021 Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. You want to do a roll call?
Sure. Margaret Clements? Oh, you're on mute, but I see you. Okay. Mary Beth Kasmarchik?
Here.
Bernie Garitas? Vicki Sorensen?
Here.
And then our newest member, Skip Daly, is not able to make it tonight.
Did we get to hear from Bernie, I assume?
Bernie will be on. I don't think he's joined us quite yet, so.
Oh, okay. So Bernie's not here yet. All right. All right. Introduction to evidence
Yes.
of evidence.
Okay. The Monroe County Comprehensive Plan as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Zoning Ordinance as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Subdivision Control Ordinance as adopted and amended. The Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure as adopted and amended. And the cases advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
I
I
move to
move that
approve.
we approve the evidence.
I second.
Call the roll. Mary Beth Kasmarchik,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes. I move that we approve the agenda as published.
I second.
Okay. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clements,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kasmarchik.
Yes.
And I also move that we approve the minutes from the January 6th meeting.
Second.
Okay. Mary Beth Kasmarchik,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. No old business. So we move right on to the first case, which is case number 2011-VAR-92, 2011-VAR-93, 2011-VAR-94. And Tammy, that's you.
Hi, I just need to figure out real quick how to get this full screen here.
Go ahead and right click, Tammy. And press exit full screen. Press present in the top right.
Thanks.
Yep.
That's better. Okay. I don't think we had any changes to the agenda. Sent out. All right. So this first one is a combination of three different variances, 2-11-VAR-92, 2-11-VAR-93, and 2011-VAR-94. It's the Dickerson variances to the 125-foot lake setback from Chapter 825, the Eco Area 1 for 12% slope encroachment, and the buildable area variance to Chapter 804 for 15% slope disturbance for a structure. This is a 1.38 acre lot. Location map up here in the corner. It's located right on Lake Monroe. The request is to allow for construction of a 25 by 55 foot in-ground pool and concrete patio, total square footage of 1,375 square feet. A portion of the construction of this will occur within the 125 foot setback, which are and also restricted slopes under 825 and 804. And I will note that since this has originally been submitted several months ago, they have come back with a different design that technically moves the pool out of the 125 foot setback. However, when you read the ordinance, it does clearly state that there shall be no land disturbance of any kind within the setback, including construction. And, staff believes that by installing the patio and all the work that would be done around it is also going to kind of encroach into that setback. I wanted to remind everyone what the environmental constraints overlay is, since two of the variances are from this chapter. I mean, the purpose of the constraints, overlay is to preserve and enhance water quality and improve stormwater management within this watershed that we get our, drinking water from. Also to, protect water quality for wildlife and preserve shore cover, that kind of thing. So just a reminder of why it's here, why we're here. The zoning map has this as forest reserve, which requires a 5-acre minimum lot size. They have already received a previous minimum lot size variance about a year ago. And I'll go into more of that in just a moment. And it's also Eco Area 1, which is the 12% slope restrictions. And the comprehensive plan has this as managed lands. This area, this little peninsula here, is completely surrounded by, I believe it's national forest and national parks, Hardin Ridge Park. So the upper picture it's the most recent site conditions that we have in our system, but it's not exactly what it looks like right now. So this is an aerial, I think from 2018. And that's what the house used to look like. They did an addition, added a 1,100 square foot addition plus a 495 square foot patio. A lot of the construction actually did encroach into the slopes. We did note in the previous staff report when they were here for the 125 minimum lot size and also a 125 foot setback, because they were expanding a pre-existing non-conforming structure that was in the setback. Their addition didn't go into the setback back then, but there was a portion of the structure in it. And I do want to point out that here's the house that we see here in our LiDAR layer, which is one of our, datas that we utilize, has the slopes and has a little bit of 15% included in that. So these are some of the site photos. They're at kind of the end of a cul-de-sac. It's not necessarily a cul-de-sac, but their driveway kind of goes back to the house. The sewer that they have out here, because it is served by a packaging plant and not septic, but their sewer line comes in around the north of the house. This is the wing that was added, and they're proposing to put their pool on the other side of it. This is just another site photo of the south side of the house. This is the new addition. And here we have a before and after photo. So this was before the addition, and noting the slope, I use this tree as kind of a touch point of where to look. And then we have this one here where you've got the addition and the patio. Glare from the sunshine here. Again, this is the south side of the house in the north, or in that upper picture, and then the southern the lower picture. I'm depicting here, these are areas that are not sloped at all. Sewer, again, is on the other side of the garage. We have plenty of area that staff thinks is more appropriate for a swimming pool to go. When they did this addition, they should have planned ahead so that they wouldn't be putting the swimming pool, so close to the lake and in these restricted slopes. And there is plenty of room to put it and design it to go somewhere else. This is a 2020 aerial showing their construction project and the addition. Once we saw this, we realized that they did not follow their required grading plan and did not put in any silt fence. They did remedy that situation, but this was an open site for quite a while without any silt fence in place and any remediation to protect the water that you just see right here. and another angle of this addition that they've added. They want to be putting the pool here off to the side. And then this is an overall view of the lake. We've got Fairfax Beach. I know a lot of fishermen that actually fish out here. This is where we're looking at. So we do have a small bit of a scenic view consideration when approving this pool. This is the original petitioner's letter that was submitted in November 2020, and a brief pool design that they've got here. This was one of their original site plans. Well, this is a site plan that was submitted. They have since moved the pool out of the setback, but there will be patio surrounding it. I know that this has stairs that come down, and I was just depicting the sewer line that comes in here, and a note from the health department discussing how they deal with waste out here. Had there been septic, this might be a different discussion, but there's not. And so there are a lot of places where the pool could be relocated to. Mike Carmen submitted on April 28th, 2020, several more kind of some information that hopefully you had a chance to read through, and I will go through some of the attachments that he also submitted. So this is one of their original site plans with the pool and demonstrating that they are moving it out of the way here. But again, there's going to be some construction, I'm certain, and some grade that will have to occur within that 125 feet. And then there's a note here that was difficult to read in the packet. It did say that all slopes in the pool area are under 13.5%. And I will note that this is kind of maybe an after the fact survey work. You know, we have our LiDAR data that stated that there were definitely slopes over 12% and a small area over 15%. And then the area was disturbed. We did not have a kind of look at what slopes were after or before construction. We did not have like an as-built here. We just are going with our best available data. And they have provided some after the fact data. And then again, they provided another look at slope here by Todd Borgman of BRCJ. And again, I'm just including the LiDAR map, which is something that we were going off of. So staff recommendation is to deny all three variances. Most specifically, finding C for all of those, because we feel like it could be redesigned and moved to a different location. And, you know, we would mostly just like to see those slopes stabilized and just left alone. And the 125-foot setback, we're going to also mention the scenic view, just having a pool that close to Lake Monroe, where we really tried to, you know, have that consideration of having that 125-foot buffer to protect the lake, to protect the view of that lake. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for staff? Like we have any questions for staff? Is the petitioner here?
Mike Carmen for representing the petitioner.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
His Mike is a lawyer. He does not have to be sworn in.
And the petitioner, Keith Dixon, is also online. I see him there. And although don't know that he was initially here for this, but we may end up dragging Todd Borgman into some of the discussion, depending on what questions you have, because a lot of what I'll be talking about, and I'm going to try to be brief. You've got a long agenda, so I'll try not to waste your time here. But yeah, I disagree with Tammy's couple of Tammy's statements or issues. We believe that the site plan that has been submitted, not the original one, that was back in January, The revised site plan, which appears on page 30 of your packet, I believe, if you have hard copy available, or Tammy can pull up here, and it is hard to read. This is Todd's work, and by the way, Todd's with Smith Design. Not
Oh, thanks.
just
Sorry.
keep that straight. I think he'd appreciate keeping that straight. It is Smith Design Group.
You're right.
But they did react to staff comments in the first staff report back on January 6th, I believe is the date of that report. The pool has been moved. It takes it out of the 125-foot setback from the lake. There are numerous photographs of the site, some aerial from different perspectives, and I'm a little bit puzzled on any concern about scenic issues in view of the lake. I mean, first of all, there's all of this lot between this building and the lake is only this lot. There's no one else affected by it. There's no tree removal required to do this. If you look at the aerial photographs and some of the different perspectives taken, I think your first thought is this is pretty flat ground, but it does meet the slope issues, or it does have the slope issues when you calculate it out. One difference, I think, on the LiDAR that Tammy referred to and what this is Todd's work showing here, is Todd's contour lines as shown there are 1 foot lines, not 2 foot lines. There's a 1 foot line. So if you're used to looking at a contour using 2 foot elevation lines, it'll mislead you a little bit, because he did this at 1 foot to be very precise. And I asked Todd specifically, and he assured me, and I have no reason not to accept it, is that his work is based on field work, not just done from his desktop. It was based on field work to confirm the footprints of the structures, to confirm the elevation lines, the contour lines. And so it has note on there that the pool is outside of anything more than 13.5% slope. I take it exactly at face value to mean exactly what it says. Now, Tammy's stated some staff, I believe on behalf of the staff, concerns that, well, their construction activity will get past that. Well, first of all, we have no reason to believe that it will. At this point, I'm telling you, I don't think the variances 1 and 3 are required. The pool is located outside of the 120-foot setback line from the lake. The pool area is where the construction activity will take place, limited to the pool area, is 13.5%. That takes it outside of the 15% slope issue, and leaves only the ECO 1 area, which is a 12% slope issue. There is not really another feasible place to put the pool at this point. Now, you don't put it in the front of the house. You don't want to put it on the other side, and where that sewer line, the septic line, you see that in red on here. You don't put it over there on top of that line or in conflict with that. Could it have been brought around further to the side of the house, basically up slope a little bit and to the east of the house? Well, it's not so obvious on Todd's work, and the one aerial photograph showed is that we do have a neighbor over there, not particularly interested in putting the pool between the house and the neighbor. At least where it is more to the lower than the neighbor, not right between the two structures. You see it there. You can see the house right there. And yes, the patio is planned and designed. The wing's been put on, and we want access to the pool off of the patio, not off of the porch, not through a chimney, not walking around the house, but immediate access off the porch. It's a reasonable place to put it, and to be able to put it there, having been relocated, which really removes 2 of the 3 objections, I believe. The construction activity can be controlled as to where that takes place, but we have a very minimal intrusion, only the southeast corner of the pool, a couple feet into the water, and then the concrete wall at that end encroaches beyond 12%. It's at a depth of 3 feet. It changes no grade requirements. Tammy made reference to my letter and some additional attachments that Todd had furnished for me. I'd asked him to look at the history on this property. Has the grade been artificially changed over time? I mean, are these elevation lines misleading because we've artificially changed those with prior construction? And his work was intended to show the elevation, the contour lines remain the same today as what they have been throughout the history of any work on this site. That has not changed anything. So the elevations remain as they have always been, at least in as far as we can tell. We don't have the full history on the property. So we're requesting the variance that on the next to last petition that you have tonight, Tishner, I'm going to borrow from that one for a minute. There's a staff recommendation for a condition of approval in that petition that I think fits here too. It's called a stormwater pollution prevention plan. You may be perfectly familiar with those. If you're not, let me tell you, it's in short jargon, it's a glorified, enhanced, scientifically produced erosion control plan. So often over the years, you've had contractors, developers that would say, we'll put up silt screen, we'll put up straw bales. And it was pretty much they went out and put it up where they thought was appropriate. The SWPPP, for short, and that's what it's referred to in the report on the Tishner petition. If you just Google and read about it, it requires that a professional go out, identify ditches, drains, swales, contours, construction limitations, to stake various features, and to design a plan to prevent any runoff, any pollution as such into the lake. And so that's why I called it a very much enhanced and glorified silt screen method, which was certainly less scientific. And I think that's an excellent recommendation, condition by the staff on that on the Tishner petition. We'll be talking about that more toward the end of your meeting, and would encourage you on this one. That would be an appropriate condition of approval that the petitioner would be required to develop the SWPPP. Once developed, it would require and allow for a staff inspection to check the components, work gets done, and a double check on it. The part of that plan could be a condition of approval, could be to stake that 125-foot setback line just to ensure construction activity does not get past that line if there's a concern that that will happen anyway, because we don't believe it will. The work on this pool, which is basically excavation, it's not grading, it's by excavation to grade the depth for the wall down the 3 feet that will be required in that corner, is expected and is planned to be done for essentially from the side, not from below the pool area, but from the side of it, side or above it, so that it goes no further down the slope than what the pool area is. So it is in fact a minimal intrusion. And I don't know how to talk about that. The pool was not originally part of the plan for construction. Keith would tell you, if we need to get into the details, that as he's phrased it to me, they had expected to just do lake access from this home site. And now they have a better look at it and looking at the conditions of the land, the rocks. This is not reasonable for lake access from the shoreline at this point. And that's when they decided a pool would be appropriate. They have grandchildren involved. I mean, it's to enhance the residential use of the property. This is not a weekend bungalow getaway. This is a full-time residence structure. Pool is certainly a reasonable addition to it. This location is minimal intrusion into a very minor slope area at 13.5 rather than 12%. And with the SWPP, certainly any concerns with what would be the result of that construction activity in that area would be designed and controlled through the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And I believe that is a condition of approval would allow you to approve this variance. And again, I believe the only variance that's required is now the second one, the ECO1 overlay, because that's the 12-degree area. The pool, by Todd's work and everything is outside of the 120-foot setback, and we believe it's also outside of the 15-degree slope area, such that there's really only one variance still needed. Actually, if with the SWPP in place, I would suggest that even those other two variances should be approved as well, because that really solves, I believe, all possible concerns with this pool at this location and the construction activity required to get it here. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yeah, this is Keith Dickerson. I just want to talk
Mr.
about
Dickerson, can I swear you in real quick?
Sure,
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. The pool, the construction of the pool is a fiberglass pool. So it is actually going to be all the piping, everything constructed by the pool contractor at his site. It's going to come over and a crane is just going to put it into a hole. So there's no construction on site. All of the digging can be done like Mike said, from the side away from the setback. So anything near the setback is just going to be a 4-inch piece of concrete as a patio. So we won't even be near the setback when we set the pool. So it's being constructed so that we will not, have to set forms and do all of that stuff on site. So there should not erosion, any possibility has been eliminated. And like I said, I moved it back. I've done everything possible that I can do to make this still work, to put it on the side of the house with no windows or, I think most people would see that, the pool needs to go on the back end of the house by the patio. I'm trying to do everything possible to meet all of these items. So I'm more than open to, since I originally filed in January, I've moved it a couple of times and also, looked at grades and did all of that. I think, we've definitely tried to alleviate all the potential problems.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Dickerson or Mr. Carmen? I've failed to ask you, board, if you have questions for them.
Well, I think I've got just a couple questions here, and they may be directed more towards Tammy at first, because I want to make sure I understand. So Tammy, would you blow up the image that's on the screen now for me, please?
That's a great question.
Better
Let's see.
you than I to have to do that, Tammy, believe me.
So let's see. It is not working for me. I am
So
trying to do.
Let me explain my question, and you can probably point it out because it is hard to read it. And I just want to make sure I understand it. So where is the 125-foot setback line at? Can you?
It's this here.
Okay.
This.
So
It's
what
from normal
portion-
pool elevation.
Right. Okay. The normal pool is related to Lake Monroe elevation, not the pool that we're talking
Correct. It
about.
has nothing to do with their property line.
Okay. So what part of the pool is encroaching within that, or are we talking about the corner of the house?
Okay, so we know the corner of the house is, and they received a 125-foot setback already because they were expanding a structure that was already pre-existing non-conforming and didn't meet the setback when they did this addition and this patio here. And then we've got basically, going back to the language that's in the packet, stating that any land disturbance of any kind within the setback, including construction, removal of vegetation, is something that is restricted within this 125-foot setback. And, we've got this interesting area here, or if you can envision this as the patio, we have already seen the encroachment from the previous one, where they didn't have silt fence, where they didn't follow their grading permit plan. Kind of a mess. And, when they first filed, there was the 125-foot encroachment with the pool, and we have seen the new design, but it's hard for us to believe that they're going to not do any other disturbance outside of this 125-foot setback when you have a patio right here, or they're going to pour. I would have to ask the petitioner, but this looks like a poured patio at this point.
What you mean the rectangle off the?
This is the
northeast?
This is the pool itself, and then they are adding in a patio as well that comes off of this porch. There's some stairs that come down the porch. This is the most recent picture here of the porch. And so there's going to have to be some sort of platform where they come down the stairs here that comes out. We've already got disturbance out here. And interpreting that 125-foot language. Yeah, we're still standing that we think that the 125-foot setback is required.
Okay, but based on the drawing, I'm just trying to understand on that drawing with what they're showing they're going to build, which is all I'm going to base this on. If we would have them stake this perimeter out of what the built environment's going to be, then if they're going to add a patio or something that requires an approval through planning, or differs from what they're telling us, and then kind of all bets are off. So I'm basing what I'm looking at here is what's on the drawing, and I'm trying to understand what's on the drawing is encroaching within that 125 foot.
Any construction. So you tell me that this patio that they've drawn in here isn't going to create any slight disturbance of earth or vegetation outside of that, where we've already seen it when they did the last addition.
Yeah, I assure you, I'm not telling you anything. I'm asking questions. So
Yeah,
what?
and that's our
I'm
perspective.
not- Okay, so show me the patio on a drawing that's going to be put in there.
This is the only drawing that they have provided us. And the pool design that they submitted was back here by this letter here. This is the only information we got with the pool permit. It's not a lot to go off of. They didn't really even include the patio itself and the design. So we're basically going by this footprint here and the letter that stated, that they were requesting. So sorry, I'm doing a lot of flipping. I'm gonna say that the patio is mentioned in their building permit application, and I have it at the very first slide
Okay,
of how much
maybe-
square footage it was.
Okay, and you're doing a great job, Tammy. This is a difficult environment to work within. So what I'm wondering is, the petitioner's representative, Mr. Carmen, has said that if that 125-foot line is staked, they're not proposing to go outside that 125-foot line. Is that an accurate statement, Mike?
Yes, Bernie. And that's why it should be staked, so it's clearly visible, and then the construction limits any disturbance activity has to stay outside of that, yes.
So these are probably pre-ordered fiberglass pools would be my guess.
It is, that's in the packet with that pool design, there was a page that discusses, and even installation instructions, how to do it as a fiberglass pool. No, Bernie, not to you specifically, just in response a little bit to what Tammy's saying, the patio didn't require variance. That's why you don't have detail on that. That's a building permit issue. The patio has never been proposed outside to be in the 120-foot setback or even the 15-degree slope issue. So there's no variance associated with the patio, and that work will be done within the limits that are allowed.
Okay, so my next question is, because it seems like there's some questions even on what we've got mapped. And so the surveyor has marked how much of the area is above the 12% slope. How much of this disturbance is above the 12% slope? Do we know that?
Yeah, if you in that red rectangle that's shown there, it's about 80% of that is above the 12-degree slope line. It's the south, it'd be really the south corner, since that's set on an angle. The south corner and come in about would get about 8 feet in from that corner, maybe just slightly more than that. It's just that corner that is more than 12 degrees, and that does not exceed 13.5, at least based on Todd's work.
Okay, the survey drawing shows 80% of the pool being less than 15% and 20% of the pool being above 12, having a slope steeper than 12%.
No, 12, yes, right. It's all less than 15. It's the over 12, and that's just that south corner of it. None of it exceeds the 12 degree. At least that's the note there. That's off the left side of the pool area. That note that's a little bit hard to read says that all the pool area does not exceed 13.5%. That's why we believe that the only variance required at this point would be the 12-degree slope area, and that's really only that south corner of the pool that's really affected by that. Tammy's concerns staff concerns expressed by Tammy have been that we won't be able to keep construction within those areas, and that we'll be intruding, notwithstanding where the pool's placed, we'll be intruding through construction activity into the slope areas. And we're to me, that's an enforcement issue, but we don't think we'll be. As Keith tried to explain the design work and the work's done offsite. So this becomes a excavate a hole and drop it in. So minimal activity on the site, and that will be done from without having to go lower on the slope.
Could I ask a question? The dirt that's excavated out, where's the petitioner intending to put that?
I can't answer that, but I mean, it's not going to be. All I know, it would not be permitted to just be stockpiled and let it wash off into the lake. No, it'll have to be, if there's not an area to dispose on site by filling the lower area, it'll have to be removed off site. It's not permitted to just let it stockpile, let it wash away or erode away. No, but I couldn't tell you now where that is.
And I would use it in the front yard. Anything left over, I would get hauled away. But there shouldn't be, if you look at you can't see it, but if you look at the slope, if you look at the picture on the screen, it's very flat up front. Well, there's actually some low spots up there, and I could use it up there. It's just to flatten the front yard out as much as possible. Or, like Mike said, I would haul it away as well.
And you realize that probably the location that you would need to bring those trucks in would be on the southern wall line there on the southeast portion of the property, because if you come around the other side, you're going to do disturbance with the heavy trucks coming on that side. Excavators and other things are going to have to sit.
Right where that cursor is, yes.
And that's the only way it can come in. On the other side, there's a lift station for the sewer. So it's impossible to bring the equipment in the other way around the pool, the other way around the house. I mean, it has to come in that side.
Okay, that's all I've got, Mary Beth. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Mr. Carmen?
I have a question for Mr. Carmen. Explain more about the stormwater pollution plan. How would that be?
It entails, as I understand it, and maybe better able to explain as I understand what it is. It requires somebody like Todd, an engineer, a surveyor engineer, to inspect the site, identify ditches, drains, swales, karst features, slopes, analyze what the stormwater runoff would be, where it would be, both in just as it is now, as well as what changes it would be to that based on construction activity, and then design a plan to capture that and to control what it'd be. That's primarily things like the silt screen fencing, but is to control that to prevent the runoff of anything on this side into the lake. And rather than what I think has been done, I can't say in all petitions, but in most petitions, certainly those that I'm familiar with and aware of over the years, we would do these things and we trust the contractor to go out and stake straw bales and silt screens and just put them up in the right place downslope from wherever he's going to be working. And this is a much more specifically designed plan and engineered where those things should be and how they should be designed to ensure capturing any stormwater runoff, to screen it first, to filter it first before, so it doesn't carry anything with it.
Any more questions? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does anybody have a motion ready?
Okay. Case number 2011-VAR-92, 2011-VAR-93, 2011-94, Dickerson 125-foot lake setback variance to Chapter 825, Dickerson Environmental Constraints Overlay Area 1 variance to Chapter 825, Dickerson Buildable Area variance to Chapter 804. I move that we approve all three variances based on practical difficulties with the following conditions: that the engineer make a statement that the slopes that he's got listed on the plans are correct and accurate within the tolerances allowed. and permitted under that type of topographic survey, that a stormwater pollution prevention plan be filed with the MS4 coordinator that will accommodate erosion control draining to the southwest, to the southeast, and especially toward, in particular towards Lake Monroe. And that plan be filed and approved by the MS4 coordinator before any building permit or improvement location permit will be granted. That the 125-foot setback to Lake Monroe be staked, and at that location, that will also be where another barrier of silt fence will be placed to safeguard against any traffic getting on the other side of it. And that the actual limits of the pool excavation be staked prior to the excavation of the pool, and that an inspection will place before excavation takes place.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
You want to call the roll, please?
Yeah, the motion is on variances number 2011-ER-92, 93, 94, the Dickerson 125-foot lake setback variance from chapter 845, the Dickerson Eco Area 1 variance from chapter 825, and Dickerson Buildable Area variance from chapter 804, respectively. Variances for a 1.3 acre lot in Clear Creek Township on Hardin Ridge Road. Again, subject to the following conditions, and I'll try on this, that the surveyor submit a certified slope survey. Is that, Bernie, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, hang on. Pardon me, I was navigating around that the surveyor submit a drawing with a statement saying that the slopes illustrated are within the tolerances set forth by standards for a topographic survey.
Okay.
Which basically says elevations and grades are at 1/10 of a foot, or the accuracies are at 1/10 of a foot or less.
Okay. And secondly, that a stormwater pollution prevention plan be submitted and approved by the MS4 coordinator, that the area, that the 125-foot setback line from Lake Monroe be staked by the surveyor, that the pool site, the construction site for the pool be staked as well, showing where the excavation is going to occur, that a silt fence be erected at the 125-foot setback, and that the stake site be subject to inspection prior to any construction. Does that capture it all, Bernie?
That is, and who seconded that? Mary Beth?
No, it was Vicky.
Oh, okay, Vicky. Excuse me. There was one more I had written down that I missed. If I can make a friendly amendment to my initial motion, would that be okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd also like that the disturbed activity, the earth disturbed, the disturbance of the earth from the construction activity, that the ground treatment be rectified by sod and not just seeded.
So that'll be an additional condition, that any disturbed areas be resodded rather than reseeded.
Yes.
Okay, we'll add that as a condition.
Thank
Again,
you.
motion is to approve the variances with the conditions set forth, to approve all 3 variances. A vote in favor is a vote to approve all 3 variances. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Barbara Clemens,
No.
Mary Beth Kasmarchuk,
No,
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Okay. Motion fails for lack of majority. Skip Daly voting.
Skip Daly
Skip is not
this
here.
evening.
Okay, so the motion fails for a lack of a majority. So we can continue it to the next meeting when we will likely have an additional BZA member.
Do you need a motion for that, or is that,
It just automatically goes to the next agenda. It fails for
okay,
the lack of majority.
very good.
Unless there would be a motion to deny, and that would be changed necessarily to vote.
Margaret, would you like to make a motion?
Well, yes, I would like to move that we deny items number 2011-VAR-92, 2011-VAR-93, 2011-VAR-94, based on staff's recommendation.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to deny all three variances based upon staff recommendation. Again, a motion, a yes vote is the motion is to deny all three variances. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smarchek,
Yes.
Brady Garitas,
No,
Vicki Sorensen.
No,
Okay, we're back to the same situation where it moves to the June meeting because there was a lack of a majority vote to either approve or deny the variance.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next case we have is cases number VAR-21-23A, VAR-21-23B, VAR-21-23C. And I'm trying to figure out who, hang on. These are, Drew, this is you, Drew.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So this one is actually quite unique in the fact that we actually have a recommendation to continue this case tonight already to the next BZA meeting. We got a message from the Monroe County Health Department on April 27th, which was right about the time the packet came out. And that was the Monroe County Health Department does not have a septic permit on file for this lot. There has not been a septic permit application filed with the department at this time, and they recommended it would be beneficial to see if a septic system could even be located and approved on this site before a variance is granted. So I did prepare a slideshow in case we did want to hear some of the details of it, but I also received a message from the petitioner's representative stating that he and the petitioner have agreed that a continuance is fine this evening to go to the next meeting and have more time to figure out the septic permit situation. So I leave it up to the board for me to continue if you want to hear it tonight, or we can wait for the next meeting.
I move that we continue on case number.
second.
Thank you.
Sorry, Margaret.
That's
didn't mean to
okay.
interrupt you.
That's okay.
Beat me to it, Bernie. Gonna call the roll, Larry.
You're on mute, Larry.
I'm sorry, having technical difficulties tonight. Okay, the motions continue variances 21 through -23A, 21-23B, and 21-23C, Perry buildable area and Perry eco area and Perry front yard setback variances respectively to the June meeting. Again, a yes vote is vote to continue. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smarchek,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes,
Vicki Sorensen.
yes,
Okay, the petitions continue to the June meeting.
All right, next up we have case number VAR-21-24. Tammy?
Last one went fast. Glad I didn't take a long break. Okay. All right, so this is WIS side yard setback variance to chapter 804. It's a half-acre lot in Benton Township North, section 27 at 8188 East North Shore Drive. It is zoned SR. SR zoning requires a 5-foot setback. And the petitioner has built a wraparound porch of which part of it encroaches into the setback by 3.3 feet. So, and this is on the first story and the second story deck. This is a construction project that's currently still, it does not have a certificate of occupancy yet. We received a complaint on permit number 17-R-103. Staff did an inspection back in December, which triggered an as-built survey to confirm that the structure was on its property lines, and this is where the setback encroachment was discovered. So we have the location map up in the corner there, showing it abuts the City of Bloomington Utilities property, and it's right there on Lake Lemon. It's zoned SR and is also rural residential by the comp plan. These are some of the site conditions. There's an easement that comes down through an adjacent property and down to the site here. And then the petitioner purchased what is called in the document recreational easements. And so they have an easement to the east and to the west of the property. The eastern portion does house the septic system. And I did enclose that document within the packet if you had a chance to look over that, and it kind of talks about the rights of each landowner with regards to this recreation easement. Staff does consider it an easement, and therefore no structures are allowed. It's still owned by the other landowner, and so therefore they do need to abide by the setbacks for this property. The slopes here are all greater than 25%, or they were, until we had an interesting grading permit submitted probably back in 2013. And staff, got a complaint called then as well and discovered that there was much more work being done than disclosed on their application. So currently the site has a main residence uphill, and then the permit application states that this is a boathouse or a residential accessory structure. This is the west side of the building. This is looking uphill and down upon it. And so this is the east side. So what we have here is the lower and the upper, like wraparound porch. Neither of these meet that side yard setback. Here we see the east side of the house again. This is the only garage door on the structure. This is that recreational easement over here. And you will see that there are doors on either side. And really, we didn't have the details for the design of this boathouse. So, staff really feels this should just be redesigned and these doors not even be utilized, and remove these porches off of here to comply with the setback requirements. As you can see on this is the west side of the structure. You've got a 0-step entry here. And then in the front, there are 2 sliding doors as well. And again, on the top, you've definitely got the door up here. And I think I'd have to confirm with the petitioner if there's sliding doors up here as well. But these porches just wrap all the way around. And this 0-step entry here is accessible. This is the south side of the house. And the as-built survey showed that 10 feet right here is the stake. This is their property line. And during staff visits, we have seen that they have encroached and graded onto the City of Bloomington Utilities property. They are storing a lot of items there as well. This boathouse or accessory structure is submitted. It is connected to the septic system. I contacted the health department regarding this. The house was permitted as a 2-bedroom structure. The septic is allowed for 3 bedrooms. Randy Rains is no longer, he retired from the health department. And so trying to navigate the file of what occurred out here, that's all the facts I have. I don't really have much more, and the health department is very busy, so they really weren't going to come out and re-inspect it unless there was, a more urgent need to do so. These are just a few more pictures of those sliding doors on the front of the house, where staff feels like the end of the porch should really just be the end of the porch here and not wrap around. This is kind of some of the construction that we've seen over time. An aerial of their easement that it's a pretty steep, it's one of the steepest driveways I've ever been on. I would not even take my planning car all the way down there. This is the petitioner's letter. This is the as-built survey, and they amended it to include this driveway, which they do show swapping over onto the city's property. There is not an easement for this. And I did have the City of Bloomington Utilities review the staff report. Yes, and they did not acknowledge there was an easement here. I only include here just a brief excerpt of the recreational easement on either side of the Wisp property. This property here, owned by Zimmerman et al., was allowed a small access lake down a very steep hill. It has never been able to be utilized, was not built correctly, and had a lot of erosion issues at one point, which has since noticed to be stabilized. The petitioner submitted an additional letter from a nurse practitioner stating that they needed this handicapped ramp to be built for medical necessity for a member. Staff is a little confused by this because there was never a site plan submitted to depict a ramp on the east side of the building. I think there were 3 attempts to request this after a site visit out there. And so they just never did actually add the ramp to that east side of the structure, to my knowledge. We have had several inquiries. I had 4 inquiries, all expressed issues with this petitioner. Kim Zimmerman, hopefully you had a chance to read her statement. The City of Bloomington Utilities did acknowledge that they had issues with this petitioner from previous trespassing, from previous tree removal on their property. But at this point in time, they looked at this as a side yard setback for a porch and did not see any issues there. They're more concerned that the garage is actually going to be used as a residence or for residential use, as are the other neighbors in the area. And we had another letter as well that was submitted with some history of the area. The staff recommendation is to deny the side yard setback variance based upon the findings of fact, specifically finding C. This is kind of a self-created issue. They could redesign this building, reconfigure that wraparound porch, and then not have to have a variance. Any questions
for staff?
I have a question. So he, in his letter, he's asking for a ramp, but we're looking at the decks and chairs. So which way are we going on this?
Let's just pull up the as-built here. The as-built shows that the building itself just barely meets the setbacks, but this porch that has been added, it does meet just barely this setback here. But as it wraps around, this is the 3.3-foot encroachment. I don't know where this ramp is that he was discussing in the letter. It makes sense that it would be on this west side where there already is a nice grade change right there that I depicted in one of the photos with a 0-step entry. Plus you've got an entrance here and 2 in the front as well. So I'm a little confused by this letter and the fact that we never did get an amended site plan.
Thank you, Tammy.
Any more questions for staff?
Yeah, Mary, I've got a question, Mary Beth. Tammy, can you zoom that up, the actual site as built?
Is there a way, Does anyone on staff know if I can zoom in here on this?
The
I only-
easiest way that Bernie's gonna be able to zoom is if he's looking at on his screen, there's at the top, there should be view options. And there's a drop-down box that says zoom ratio. And Bernie can actually, or anyone can zoom it on their screen up to 300%.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think.
beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Thanks,
Technology is
Jackie.
awesome.
Yeah, I don't have that ability to do it here on my site, but great.
You guys are in trouble now. I'm gonna be doing all kinds of zooming. Okay, so we are talking about that portion of the stairs. It's on the east side of the home. And it is 1.7 feet off the property line and it should be 5 feet, correct?
Yes.
And is
That
it
is
because of the
correct.
posts, or if this was a cantilever deck, would it make a difference?
I think if it was cantilevered, it would still be an encroachment. That's a part of a structure.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff? Nope. Is the petitioner here?
Yeah, we're here.
Would you like to say something, sir?
Sure. So,
Okay, please state your
um,
name and do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do. My name is Evan Wiss.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay,
sir.
so just using this visual that Tammy has on the screen right here, just to the right of, and obviously she said that the drive shown on this picture encroaches in the city of Bloomington land. It's obviously handwritten. It's not, to scale or anything like that. So just to the right side of where the deck encroaches on the 5-foot setback though, the reason we have one on that side, as Tammy mentioned, that's the only side with an actual garage door. And I don't know if any of you are handicapped, but having to, wheel a wheelchair all the way around to the west side of the building is, especially on the steepest driveway she's ever been on, would not be ideal. So that's why we added it in the smallest part there in an effort to not encroach on the land that we have a liberal use easement on. We just wanted to stay as far back as possible. We understand that it did encroach a little bit on the setback, and that was not really our intent. But circumstances change, especially with a lot of people's health in the last year. And, someone in our family developed a medical condition that requires them to be in a wheelchair. So this was done spur of the moment, after the fact, long, after the initial construction plans were started. And, we're hoping you guys will be reasonable on this, especially since we have liberal use of the land that we're technically encroaching on. We even, pay the property taxes on that land, believe it or not. So the only thing we don't have is we're not deeded owners. That's it. So other things I wanted to address was Tammy mentioned the other drive that was put in for the rest of the neighbors was not functioning or was never functioning. That's not accurate. We did a I don't know what it's called. Erosion control plan. We had several of those done that were approved by the city of Bloomington. We implemented them. That whole new road we had to build for the other members of the community out of our pocket was inspected not only by the stakeholders, but the county, and they all accepted it when that easement agreement was amended in 2015. And then also with the septic system, it has been upgraded per the Board of Health to a 5-bedroom septic system.
What?
And that has been installed and approved, right?
Right.
Okay, and then
I don't have her.
what's that?
Do
you
we
say
have any of
something?
these permits? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, sir, but do we have any of these approved?
Yeah, we uploaded everything that we were asked to be uploaded onto the portal. I believe it was uploaded on the 27th when I logged in and looked at it, the revised septic permit. So that should be in the portal. I don't know if Tammy can show that somehow. And then another thing I wanted to comment on was she said she asked us multiple times, recently to submit an amended site plan. I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. Maybe I didn't get it. I don't know. But the first time I heard from her was Thursday last week. And, we were actually supposed to be in the April meeting, and we found out 2 hours before the meeting start that the staff had made a mistake on the agenda and we got pushed. So we uploaded everything that she said we needed, and now all of a sudden we're hearing we might have something incomplete. So that's news to me.
I'm Tom West, and I'd like to say a few things here. She's also said that,
Sir, do you
The
swear
lower-
to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
yes,
Thank you.
she's said that the lower building, the house is higher up on the hill if you want to see other diagrams of that. Several times in her statement, she said that this is the house, the lower, and it's not. It's a garage. And I wanted the garage to look like the house. If you can see that it's the same pitch and everything, and the porches are the same, and it's a lake view from the whole property. That's the whole reason I did that. So the house is at the top, and the lower building, she keeps coming up with these ideas that someone's living in there or going to live in there, and that's not going to happen at all. So all we're really looking at was to put the wheelchair ramp for a family member on that side. It's very steep, as she said, and you have to go down in a car. You can hardly negotiate it very easy. Obviously, if you're, older or in a wheelchair. So that's the whole thing. And I'm going to have a wheelchair ramp in the house and the garage. So this basically is just over a couple of feet on the porch that's sticking out, which I'd rather not cut off because it doesn't really affect any neighbor or the city of Bloomington or anybody whatsoever.
The last thing I want to mention is the way that the statement was kind of written kind of made it sound like we were just kind of doing whatever we wanted and not following rules, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We've planted hundreds of trees on this property. Obviously when you build something, you may have to cut down a tree or two to put, a structure there. So we've replaced every tree we've ever removed tenfold. We've also done all the erosion control that has been asked of us, and then some more. I mean, obviously this is our property. We want it to be preserved as well as we can, to the best of our ability. And, these pictures are pretty outdated. The house is nearing finality, and hopefully going to get the occupancy certificate here in the next 60 days or so. But that's kind of where we stand right now. This is the last little thing holding us up from moving forward in the next month or two here.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Debbie Smith.
Hey, Debbie, do you swear to tell the truth? And are you speaking on behalf of the petitioner here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You got a little bit of an echo going on there. You might want to.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't turn the volume up, so hopefully you can hear me well enough. The erosion plan on this property has actually been completed 3 different times, and the access road for the neighbors on top of the hill has also been completed 3 different times. The last time that it was completed, it was passed by everybody that needed to pass it. The thing that did not happen was that the people on top of the hill did not take control of the situation and maintain it. the way they should have. So there is an erosion problem again, but that is not any longer Tom's problem. He spent probably $60,000 to $80,000 on erosion plans and continued to fix that road. And they were supposed to blacktop it, and nobody trusted Kim Zimmerman enough to give her money so that it could be blacktopped. So that is the reason that it has eroded and they now have no access. Tom has done what he was supposed to do on multiple occasions.
Okay.
Mary Beth, can I ask a quick question? Mrs. Smith probably doesn't know this, but can someone explain this ramp to me? If I missed this ramp, maybe the petitioner can discuss the ramp.
Yeah, let me try and find a picture of it here, and maybe I can share my screen. I'm going to use a picture that's in the agenda. I can tell you what page it's on. Hold on. Okay, if you go to page 57, it's the top image is where it's going to be. And we didn't finish completing the ramp because we didn't think we could at this point. I mean, it'd take us,
Do you have a copy of the, are you looking at the Zoom page now?
Go up one more page, Tammy, if you could. Okay, right there. So see where her clicker is by the windows there on the lower level?
Yes, sir.
The skinnier part, the skinnier exit of the porch there. That's where we were going to put the ramp, is that little skinnier part closer that runs directly towards the garage door. That way we would like to put it on the bigger part, but that would make us, go further into the setback and likely onto the easement. So we put it on the skinnier part.
I'm going to interrupt because I'm trying to understand this quickly. Some of this other stuff, it doesn't pertain to what I'm really focused on. So you're telling me that the ramp is coming towards me in that right photo. It's coming towards me parallel to the building. Is that correct?
That's what we were planning on, yes.
Make it go like that.
I can't.
So,
What's the minimum width of the ramp that you have to have for handicapped ramp? Do you know?
We were thinking 30 inches would fit the person's wheelchair through there. It'd be tight, but we could do it with 30.
it's like 4 feet altogether.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say for what we have here with the existing building, the existing doorways, the deck and the porch, the way it is, I would like somebody else to make a motion when it's time, but we'll hear people against it, I guess.
I would just like to say that if it gets approved, I would like the ramp to be ADA compliant. I just would like it to be wide enough to accommodate the purposes for what, if it's going to.
Margaret, I can't hear you.
You can't? I'm unmuted.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Mary Beth, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm sorry, my internet connection's
Okay.
having issues.
But if we are going to approve this, I would like the ramp to be ADA compliant. I don't see any valor in approving a ramp that's unusable for the purpose for which it's intended. That's all. So thank you.
Very good.
Margaret, I would agree with you. And if you guys would allow it, we would do it off the left side with the wider opening there, which would make it, the correct size.
Then we have the whole easement on that side.
Yeah, I would recommend against that if anybody's going to make a motion on this, because I don't want to get into another variance issue. If they can make the narrow side work, I think that's a great point, Margaret.
But
Okay.
I have a question, Mary Beth.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Well, if the ramp this is supposed to be the garage, and the ramp is going to come off the garage, how are you going to get the wheelchair up to the house? That's all.
We will build.
I was wondering the same thing.
We have a ramp that will be up in the house in the garage. You drive in the garage and that's how you get in the house.
No, I think you're talking about there's a height difference there. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I see you say you're going to put the ramp, what I consider as the garage. So you come out on the ramp, but then how do you get up to the house? That's a rough road up to the house.
We needed to unmute you, sorry, Evan, because there's a lot of feedback.
Oh, sorry. So there is a separate garage on the house. So the only reason we would be using this entrance down here is if you're doing, an activity of some kind in this lower garage. There's a one car that's attached to the house that would be used on a daily basis.
Okay, and I would also go back to what we're looking at is about the, to me, the deck and the stairs, not a ramp. So I'm not for sure what we're going to be voting on.
Is for where the ramp is going. That's been the whole problem, that City of Bloomington, first they thought the houses were not the proper setbacks. And when I turned in the survey, they showed that both the house and this garage are the proper setbacks, 5 and 10 feet. And then this little corner of the portion of where we were going to put the ramp is not the proper setback, where those 2-bys are, the treated 2-bys, by 2 to 3 feet. So it's not finished yet, but we would like to finish it. And the house is farther along, and this is the lower building we're looking at, which is the bigger garage.
We would finish that ramp within a day or two. We just didn't want to keep spending money on it if this was going to fail.
Then it's 4 feet wide. And we have a garage door there where we can pull she said that we were using the City of Bloomington's land or somebody else. We have 10 feet in front of the building, in front of that deck, that we can drive a car through there. And we also have a legal easement with the Lake Lemon that we renew every year for boating in front of our house and lower garage. So we have 3 easements all the way around this property. And we've had the lot for 6 to 8 years. What I'm trying to do is build the ramp, finish it up, and get it inspected. And this has all been a holdup. You can see where the dotted line is. That little bit is all that we encroach on, which I thought this was a waste of time of everybody, but here we are.
I'd like to get clarification from the petitioners as to, this was permitted as a residential storage structure, okay? What activities require the necessity for a wheelchair ramp, and why is the building connected to a septic tank?
Because we're allowed to have a bathroom in the building. We went through the City of Bloomington, and you're allowed to have a bathroom in a garage. I've been all up front with them about this. It's a 2-bedroom house, and they made us put in I had a 3-bedroom permit, and somebody's idea, when they saw, the size of the house, they said, you need to put in a 5-bedroom. So what did I do? I put in a 5-bedroom by their demands, and here we are, we're done. And if you want to walk up that hill to the house, you will understand why we want a bathroom in there. Nobody wants to live in there, and it's very tiny, and we have no need to live in there.
But my point is that the permit is for a storage structure, and you're talking about other activities rather than a storage structure, apparently.
So we probably would have, this is Debbie Smith, I'm sorry, we probably would have possibly, grill outs, because there's a nice flat area over here on the side of that building. So, we may have cookouts over there. We, just sit on the porch and look at the lake, it's not like we're going to have big parties in there or anything. It's just that we want it to be accessible to whoever comes to visit.
So you wouldn't have any problem. you wouldn't have any problem entering into a recorded commitment that it would not be used for a residential, as a residential residence.
Correct.
The lake is closer to the lower building than the upper building. Like I said, if you walk from that lower building up to the top, believe me, it's a steep walk. And you would be winded. I can tell you that. I've done it hundreds of times.
Margaret, you have your hand raised and you're on mute.
I think my questions have been answered. It had to do with the use of the building. And I think that Mr. Wilson clarified those questions. Because it frankly looks like a residential structure, and I don't see, I understand about your use of the building for its proximity to the lake, that it's closer and therefore easier, especially for a disabled person to access, and that you can enjoy some nice times out there with a barbecue, like you mentioned, some nice family activities. But I just was wondering about, it doesn't look like a storage structure. So that's all. So I think that I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
And Margaret, the reason we made it look a little, it looks a lot different now than it did in the original pictures. It's got siding. It's going to be painted here soon. We wanted it to look as nice as possible, just to be, we don't want to have a piece of junk on the lake. We want it to look good and do the right thing with that. So we kind of went above and beyond on the building materials for the lower building as well.
Well,
tell you,
like Tom
Kevin.
said, to make it match the house.
Correct. And also, I will tell you, it's only 24 feet wide. That's it.
That's good to know. Thank you for telling me that. Okay, I'm finished with my questions. Thank you.
Staff, staff would like to make one clarification statement. The health department uploaded a septic permit number 248844 issued on March 10th of 2020, and it is for a 3-bedroom septic. So I just want to have that stated for the record. Thanks, Jackie, for finding that.
Okay. So it is a 3-bedroom septic. All right. And you stated that you pay taxes on this easement. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
But the deed is not in your name and the property is not in your name, but you're paying taxes on it?
Yes, we provided a check to the property owner.
That's the agreement.
That's part of the easement agreement. So whatever they did with that money, we don't know, but that's been provided.
And is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
There should be something else from the health department because they required him to upgrade it to a 5-bedroom.
And we can provide that if needed. We can get that from the
Department.
Yeah.
What's that
Okay.
right there?
That's what I just had opened. It looks like Bernie has his hand raised.
Bernie?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I just think that we need to continue this petition. There's a lot of questions out there. I think that Larry's questions were very poignant, and I think that we need to get something on paper before we vote on this to state exactly what's going to happen here, because I just have a feeling that we're going to be revisiting this site after we have a fully constructed building that may be something different than what we have. So I just think we need to continue this until we get some more information. Staff can ask some very poignant questions. Septic permits can be put forth, we can see what an ADA handicap ramp will look like, kind of 90 degrees off the building. It's going to have to swing around. You'll have to have enough turning radius for a wheelchair, and it's going to have to be a maximum slope for a certain distance going back towards the garage door. I'm not ready to vote on this. I hate to put it off, but I'm done with it. There's just too much back and forth on this one.
And I also, just looking at it, I would like, I'd like the petitioner to make his best case scenario. So for instance, he said for the handicapped, his sister, that the ramp would be on the west side of the building, not the east side of the building. And I know that there are slope and variances that have to be obtained, but I would like him to work with the staff to make the best case scenario for the family, and then discuss all of the variances that might need to be approved in order to make this its best home for your family. That's what I would like.
So are we going to move to continue this case?
So I would like to move that we continue the VAR-21-24 Weiss side yard setback variance to chapter 804.
A second.
Okay, the motion is on to continue variance 21-24, the West side yard setback variance to the June meeting, I assume. And a vote in favor is a vote to continue it. Mary Beth Kasparchak,
Yes.
Rudy Garitas,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Barbara Clements.
Yes.
It's continued to the June meeting.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have case number VAR-21-25. Drew?
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. And the screen is showing for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is petition number VAR-21-25. It's the Brian Lady minimum lot size variance, chapter 804. It's located in Bean Blossom Township, section 22, at the address of 6352 West Woodland Road. So the petitioner applied for residential accessory structure permit in March of 2021 to construct a 576 square foot pole building on the property adjacent to the existing single family residence. During the review stage of the permit application, the zoning inspector notified the petitioner that he would need to request a minimum lot size variance as the property was less than 2.5 acres required for the Ag-RR zone. We'll go through this presentation and I can show you some exhibits of the petitioner as well as some images planning staff has produced with respect to this proposal of adding a pole barn, pole building structure to the, it will be the west of the property existing structure. So here's the slope map. So it would be located in buildable area. It'd be located over here to the west of the existing structure. There was some concern that they might not be able to meet the 15-foot side yard setback requirement for structures in the Ag-RR zone. It is possible that these boundary lines here are not depicted completely accurately, as sometimes the GIS does. It is not representative of a legal survey. So I do have another image in here. This is from one of the county's resources, GIS resources. So from the corner of the existing structure measured to the western property line, somewhat in line with the angle of the home structure, measures approximately 42 feet. The proposed pole structure will be 24 by 24. So doing the math, that would allow for 18 feet of space between the property line and the proposed structure. So The petitioner himself has stated that he was not worried about encroaching into the 15-foot side setback, but it was an initial concern based on some of those measurements made here on this version of the GIS. But it looks like it will meet and won't need a variance for the side yard setback. Here's the petitioner's submitted site plan. Existing septic field is located to the southeast of the existing structure, and it will be far enough away from other setback requirements and be located in buildable area. So overall, it's a fairly straightforward petition, minimum lot size in the Ag RR zone. Planning staff recommends approval of the minimum lot size variance, Chapter 804, based on the findings of fact, stating that any new development on this property would first require a minimum lot size variance given its current configuration. I will now take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Drew?
Drew, has there been a survey done on this parcel so we know exactly how far the building will be off the, they'll be measuring from the house, I'm assuming, for the placement of the building, is that correct?
Yes, so the site plan here isn't quite as drawn to scale as planning staff would prefer, but in conversations with the petitioner, he's going to be placing it right along the side to make sure that that 15-foot setback is met for the structures. No specific survey or professional site plan has been produced.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions for Drew? Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Let me see if I recognize any of the phone numbers.
If you're joining us by phone, you can press *6 to unmute.
Hi there. Yeah, my name is Brian Lady. I have nothing really other than just saying that the property joining beside that 6352 is owned by the sister of my daughter, which is my son owns that with us, and my daughter owns the property to the side of it. So I don't know if that means anything, but
All right.
I'm
Thank
sure
you,
they
sir.
don't do it yet. So, and the 15 feet is there because I've measured.
Okay. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, are we ready for a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, on case number VAR-21-25, I move to approve the minimum lot size variance to Chapter 804 based on the findings of fact with the recommended motion conditions or reasoning. Approve any new development construction on this property would first require a minimum lot size variance.
I'll second that motion. Call roll, please.
Okay, the motion is to approve variance number 21-25, the Brian Lady minimum lot size variance to Chapter 804, based upon the recommendations set forth in the report and subject to all conditions in the report. Again, the vote in favor is vote to approve the minimum lot size variance. Bertie Garitas,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Barbara Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smarta.
Yes.
Okay, the variance is approved by a 4-0 vote.
Thank you, and you have a good evening.
I was really beginning to get concerned about the June agenda.
You're not the only one, brother.
Yeah, me too. Okay, next up, we have case number VAR-21-26.
Good evening, everybody. So this is a variance from Chapter 830, which is the landscaping chapter for RCV roofing. So this property is located in Richland Township, off of West Vernal Pike. It is 3.9 acres. So the petitioner is requesting a variance from this chapter. So this is a commercial site. It is has been developed. The pictometry on the left is a little outdated. The lot is a little bit larger than that. It extends farther back to the north. So the structures have been completed for the RCV roofing commercial site plan, which was approved. There is an office main area with multiple bays and then a larger building for storage. So the landscaping chapter requires that landscaping is installed before a land use certificate can be issued. Right now, there is a conditional land use certificate so that they could receive their certificate of occupancy. The petitioner is requesting an extension of 2 years to allow more time to finish the installation of all the landscaping. So essentially during excavation of the property, a contractor removed more trees than what was designated on a site plan. So for landscaping requirements, there are areas that you can identify for preservation that reduces the total amount of landscaping you have to install. So with the removal of some of this area that was designated for preservation, their landscaping has now increased. So this is a little bit of the photos. This is the main building. The petitioner stated that they have installed partial amount of the landscaping, as we can see here. The main area that still needs to be completed is back behind the largest barn. There's some trees that have been planted. The drainage area has been seeded. Let's see. So it's a lot of the removal was along the eastern boundary of the property. So there's not really a great picture of it. Go back here. So it's kind of the landscaping that's along here is going to need to be installed. The petitioner's letter. So they do state that it doubled their landscaping with the excavation that was overzealous, maybe. So they're requesting to the summer of 2022. Just repeat the slide just for ease of access. Let's see. So staff recommendation is to deny the landscaping variance because there were no practical difficulties found. After reviewing the variance, this was a self-created hardship. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ann? Bernie has a question.
And so is the landscape plan that they have filed, thank you, right there, is that plan consistent with what will be required before they get their occupancy? Is that plan what they're supposed to install?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if it was prior to the extra trees removed, because I'm sure you had a landscape plan that you approved prior to excavation, and they came back over excavated, and now they've submitted this plan that takes care of the tree removal and the things that were supposed to be preserved.
This was the landscaping plan I found under the approved commercial site plan. Jackie, I know, has been working closely with the petitioner. Was there a file that I missed, Jackie, or does this appear to be the most updated?
No, I think you're right, Ann. I actually think the trees that got removed were on the west side, and Jay can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had done a subdivision of the property and were required to have those street trees there. Yeah, exactly. And so because those street trees were supposed to stay as part of the subdivision, there's actually additional trees that need to be replanted because of the excavation.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
And again, the request is not to avoid the planting, it's just to extend the period of time that the planting has to be done in, and for cash flow purposes. Am I correct with what the petitioner's letter is stating?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So any other questions for staff?
Margaret has her hands raised.
Yeah, well, I'm sympathetic with this request for a few reasons. Number one, this is the year of the cicada emergence. And I've been advised by Amy Thompson, for instance, to wait until after the cicadas before I plant trees. And I hate to burden business owners with additional expense when a very logical and easy accommodation can take place. And I would go further to say, this is the busiest time of the year for a roofer. And this is a very difficult burden for them to have to undergo, especially after having had the mistake of their excavator add financial cost to them. And then finally, I feel that if an extension is granted, I'd like it to work with nature and not against it, and give them through the fall of 2021, because planting trees in the summer is a little bit more problematic and not as environmental as planting in the fall. So those are my comments. I feel bad that those trees were taken out for RCV roofing. I would hate to cause them extra burden by requiring them to plant now with that cicada emergence. I mean, I just really, and also in the height of their busy season. So I'd like to work with our community members, and I feel that practical difficulties exist, but we haven't heard from the petitioner yet. And, and also from the rest of the community. But I just wanted to add my 2 cents worth.
Okay, sounds like you'll be ready to make a motion later. Is the petitioner here, and would they like to speak?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, sir. Can you state your name, and do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
My name is Japheth Nelson, and I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I appreciate those comments right there. I fully definitely want to get approval on this. There's no question as of me agreeing to the landscaping plan that was set forth. There was a landscaping plan before this, and it also stated to the excavator of what trees to keep. And we do have file of this. And I came out here personally, I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm sorry. He annihilated it. He took everything out, and that was not our plan. So yes, that literally doubled my landscaping bid. And then there's the factor of even COVID, all of my lumber prices. So it's not just it's a cash flow issue, but when we were building this, the lumber prices started hitting, and that jacked my cost of building way up. So it had to come in, and landscaping is one of the last things you're dealing with. So I've already paid for the lumber and all these prices on that. And to continue business, I need to keep some sort of cash flow to keep rocking as best as we can during COVID year, during these extra expenses. I mean, it's been absolutely nuts. I already have probably about 15% of the landscaping done. Even the landscaper had to take a pause because of shortages on plants. So literally, I was already approved half of it with him, and we're going to complete half of it like as soon as the rest of the plants of the half of the whole plan come through. But some of this is completely out of my control. And like I said, I'm totally good with completing this plan to spec on the plans. And Margaret stated through the fall of 2021, that's this fall. I'm requesting the summer of next year, which would be 2022. But like I said, I will complete it. I'm actually throwing down more grass just because it's ugly. I'm wanting to get it nice, beautiful, and clean, and I will complete it. So that's what I'd request that you do approve this.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the petitioner? And I can confirm that, yes, lumber and construction costs have skyrocketed recently.
So quick note, with commercial site plans, staff does, have the ability to work with petitioners to, vary and give, leeway. That's especially why, we've already have a conditional LUC issued. Unfortunately, we just don't have a time frame for landscaping actually specified within the ordinance, which is why it was decided to come to the BZA. So if it is considered for approval, there was a recommendation that the buffer yard between the neighboring property to the east, that is installed within the next 120 days.
Can I say something on that? That is part of my 50% now plan is to complete that, but the 120-day rules is once again not on me. It's on the plants, it's on the landscaper, it's what's available. Even the landscapers have that. I have it approved, no problem. I just don't know if I can comply in 120 days, but it's gonna get done this year because once I've already signed off with the contractor.
Anybody else have any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to speak against this petition? I don't see anybody. So do we have a motion ready?
I'd like to make that motion. And with regard to VAR-21-26, RCV roofing landscaping variance to chapter 830, I would like to move that we approve it and we give an extension to the fall of 2022, and that we eliminate that 120-day deadline on buffer yard. I think that all items for the landscaping should be completed by fall of 2022.
Second.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hear me? Oh,
Yes. Okay. The vote
Larry,
is-
sorry, real quick, did we ask for comments from the public?
Yes, we did.
I think
Okay,
so.
I think that one person's trying to say something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are
Is
you here to
this-
speak on behalf of the petition or against the petition?
I am in between. I did push the right button to get in for the question.
Okay.
My name is Sheila
State-
Bissonette. Sheila Bissonette.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I live directly across the street and up the hill from there. And my question, I tried to get in for the petitioner. I think they've done a great job. I know they've worked with the neighbors on the east side. I was there when the trees were being knocked down on the west side and the whole property and took pictures, but I'm not there at the meeting with them. I'm just short of the COVID vaccine time to get out. So I'm glad I could speak on this. So my question was, it was all done on the weekend, on a Sunday. And I question why. And there was someone that spoke to me in a vehicle supervising. So I don't understand why these poor trees and the birds were so sad the next day, because that not only are homes for birds, it's also a area for deer that can walk across and hide along the Angelina Lane, because they don't have that access from the factory now. So they would come up that tree line and then come across to the other properties on the other side of the road. So I was disappointed, but he told me it was all going to look really well. And I just wanted to ask why it was done on a Sunday and there wasn't better supervision.
So I hired Kevin Huntley's Excavation, through my general contractor. I wasn't made aware of when they were starting it. I also came out during the day, like I told the staff here, and that's when I saw all these trees
Yeah.
cut down. So I was completely shocked to this. But if you saw, or I'll be more happy to after whatever you're comfortable with, but I'll show you our landscaping plan. So we're going to be having to replace all of those trees to meet the requirements, which we're totally all for. So it was a huge shock to me, and it also made my landscape a lot larger. So I totally feel where you're coming from.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, my motion stands. Vicky, does your second stand, or whoever seconded?
It stands.
Okay.
We should probably just make sure, is there anybody else that wants to speak so we can close out the hearing for sure?
Not seeing anyone. Are you guys seeing anybody?
Okay, I will take the roll then on the motion to approve the variance -21-26 RCV roofing landscaping variance to chapter 830 to allow an extension to the fall of 2022 to complete the landscaping requirements. A vote in the favor is a vote to approve the variance without conditions. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Barbara Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Marchek,
Yes.
Brady Garitas.
Yes.
Variance is granted.
You have a good evening, sir.
Yeah, sorry that happened. Boy.
Yeah, sorry for the birds too. That's.
I appreciate y'all very much. I'll take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck. Okay, next up we have VAR-21-27A and VAR-21-27B. And that is Drew.
Thank you. This is the Lewis buildable area 15% slope variance to chapter 804 and the Lewis Eco Area 1 12% slope variance to chapter 825. It's located in Clear Creek Township, section 2, at the address of 3272 East Mathatha Drive. Okay, some summary and background here. 2 design standards variances, as I stated. The purpose is to construct a 392 square foot in-ground pool with a surrounding patio adjacent to the existing single-family residence. According to Elevate GIS, the proposed pool and extended patio area will be located almost entirely in an area greater than both 12 and 15% slope. The petitioner had some conversation with planning staff in the beginning stages of their pool design, in that they felt that the slope maps provided to them were inaccurate, and that the area was actually flatter than it came off in the GIS. So planning staff requested that the petitioner submit a site survey, and if they did not wish to submit a survey, that they could do some analysis on their own for planning staff review. The petitioner provided some personal analysis and photographs of the site area, and it was ultimately determined by planning staff that there was not enough information in those submitted photos and diagrams to make an interpretation that the slope maps were incorrect in this area. I will note that chapter 825 slope is measured over a 50-foot distance, and it is likely because of this measurement that those slopes are shown at that grade than what the petitioner was calculating on their own in their own analysis. So here is the slope map for the property. The home site, existing home, is here in the middle of this polygon parcel. And then their proposed pool location and extended patio is actually going to be coming off of the back of the house and into this sloped area. We will show the petitioner's site plan that they have drawn where that pool area is located, and it's also on a slope map, so it'll be good to see in reference to that. So here is the all slope map. Again, everything that's above is in green or in other colors other than blue is higher than the 12%, which is the eco area 1. And then everything that's a shade of yellow or higher and to the red areas is slopes greater than 15%. Again, so the proposal slope, pool area is back through here behind the home. Now we have some site photographs of the petition site. This is Mathatha Drive. It's a gravel road. Mathatha. Yes, I believe it's Mathatha Drive. It comes through here on a gravel road to service some additional properties at the end. So this is just panning to the left and looking at the petition existing residents on the petition site. And then back here in this area is where the petitioner is proposing to construct a pool. Some photographs of the front side of the house, the attached garage, as well as some area over here to the south of the home. Again, you can see in the distance the screened-in porch deck area where the pool will be located nearby in that area down there. The septic system, you can see the vent come up here. So there is a septic system that comes along through this area over here. More photographs of the side yard of the petition site, and then coming around to the side of the existing home, we start to see some of the slopes that are represented in the slope map. More photographs here of the petition site and the proposed location of the pool and patio area. And just more photographs to try and get an idea of how the slope looks in this area. Here I have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals stating that they believe the GIS slope maps are somewhat inaccurate for the area that they are considering to install a pool. And then some other details about the petition site itself, and that they are committed to performing the least amount of soil disturbance as possible on the petition site for this project. Here are the petitioners' submitted site photographs and their measurements as well that they created for the location of the pool. So here's another photograph of the that they submitted. And then here is the proposed site plan. As you can see, it comes right off the existing deck area. The half circle shape is the extended patio area. And then of course, this shape here is the proposed pool. And so there will be no reason to believe that there'll be any encroachment to any of the setbacks or even close to the existing septic field, but it is showing as located in sloped areas. Here is one of the other items that the petitioner provided to planning staff in lieu of a licensed surveyor's site survey. This was their own analysis of the slope area and measurements that they made based upon their own measurements. As you can see here, the height and the slope calculated. And again, Chapter 825 does a slope over 50 feet, which is why it was still not enough information based on this for planning staff to determine if the slope map is inaccurate in this area. So hence the need for the variances. So overall, planning staff recommends denial of both the buildable area variance and the eco area 1 variance based on the findings of fact, specifically criteria C, in that no practical difficulties exist on the site, in that the slope issues can be reasonably addressed through the redesign or relocation of the development, building, or structure. Planning staff that felt that there was adequate buildable area to the south of the home and away from the septic field that could potentially accommodate a pool other than the area that's in the steep slopes. So I will now take any questions.
Board have any questions for Drew? No questions? Okay. Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
I am. This is Eric Lewis.
Mr. Lewis, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Eric. Thanks for the consideration on this. Yeah, just a couple notes. Drew did a great job there. When we first started this project, we didn't really even realize we were in the Zone 1 overlay. To be honest, looking at the maps, we're close to about a half a mile or maybe a little bit more from the normal surface level of the lake. So we never really considered we were close, but I'd really like to have a lake view. That would have been really nice. The maps, I think, are probably, in my opinion, still a little bit inaccurate right off the back of our house. If you look at the drawings that I made and the calculations that we did, I used a string level and took measurements and calculated all of that. Inside of that area, nothing exceeds the 12%. If you extend it out further, like Drew was saying, yeah, I think we're probably in some places we're over. Our house certainly lies on a slope there, and that's why we're going after the variance. The main reason that one of the main reasons we want to put the structure in the back of the house is for safety reasons. We've got a 9-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl and a bunch of neighbor friends sort of in the same age range. So it'd be really nice to kind of keep an eye on everyone and make sure nobody's inside of the area that we don't know about just for safety reasons. The area to the south is flat enough certainly to put one in, but the biggest problem really is visibility. If it's in the back, we can see the site from just about every room in the house. But if it's on the south of the yard there, we have very limited, almost no visibility from the house. So that's pretty much all I have. Thank you for your consideration.
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
I've got a quick question. Mr. Lewis, this is Bernie. Do you see that the pool will go into the woods line, or are you staying out of the woods line with what you're proposing?
It'll absolutely be outside of the wood line by I think it's about 20 to 30 feet. So the woods should not be disturbed whatsoever.
I'm just going to make an observation on these pools. I think it's reasonable to place the pool near the house, not just for maintenance, but the activity that would have to happen to bring a walkway and other things that would need to be put in to get to the pool from the house. I think having it up against the house is probably the reasonable expectation for someone who wants to put a pool in. I do see what Drew's saying with, if again, this is off LiDAR. I don't know that the petitioner's calculations are right, and I don't know if LiDAR is as precise as what we think it is sometimes. But I just think that these structures next to the home is where it's practical and possible physically relative to the distance to the house. I just think it makes sense to me. That's all I've got.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition? Not seeing any. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against this petition? Don't see any.
I will note for the record, very quickly, I did receive some emails this afternoon, of course, after the packet had been published, from a few neighbors that had offered their support. I believe 2 separate neighbors emailed in support of this petition for Mr. Lewis, just for the record.
All right, thank you, Drew. Does anybody have a motion on this petition?
I can make one. Petition VAR-21-27A and VAR-21-27B, Lewis Buildable Area, 15% slope variance to Chapter 804, Lewis Environmental Constraints Overlay Area, 12% slope variance to Chapter 825. I do believe practical difficulties have been met based on location and keeping the pools as far from the septic system as practical. I move that we approve the variance based on findings of fact and staff report, practical difficulties.
I second that.
Okay, I will call the roll. Vote is on petition VAR 21-27A and 27B, the Lewis buildable area, 15% slope variance, and Lewis Eco Area 1, 12% slope variance respectively, for the property located at 3272 East Mathatha Drive. Again, a vote in favor is a vote to grant both variances. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smarchek,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Both variances are granted on a finding of practical difficulties.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
And next up, we have case number VAR-21-29. Ann?
Mary Beth. So this variance is from the minimum lot size from chapter 833. So this property is owned by the Horton, so it's Horton minimum lot size. It is located in Benton Township, off of Kings Road. So the property is zoned as estate residential 2.5, which has a minimum lot size requirement of 2.5 acres. So the property as it exists is 1.4 acres. So on the left is a pictometry view. This property, it is located on the corner of Kings Road. The owners reside in the property to the west, or sorry, to the east. So this property used to be considered pre-existing non-conforming. Under the ordinance, it previously held a duplex. That has been demolished and gone for quite a long time now. So with the removal of that home, it lost its pre-existing non-conforming status. On the bottom right, that was from a site visit. It didn't necessarily want to go, it's kind of, has lots of trees and nice vegetation, and I don't want to get up too close to the person's house, the petitioner's house, but it's just mainly a nice grassy field. The pictometry photo shows it pretty well. So this is the site plan. The petitioner's representative is Smith Design Group using Todd Borgman. So this is the site plan. It shows that on the right is the property owner's personal home. So this second lot has a proposed 1,800 square foot house on it. This would be the minimum variance required in order to develop this property again. And I'm sorry, it's a approximately 900 square foot house. Here's their petitioner's letter. So, yeah, proposed small residence garage and a pool area. Staff is recommending approval of the minimum lot size variance to Chapter 833 based on the findings of fact.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Nobody has any questions for you?
Well, I have,
Go ahead, Margaret. I'm sorry.
So what are the lot sizes of the surrounding properties? I mean, how does this fit in comparison to the surrounding properties? Like the neighbor to all of the neighbors, are they 2.5 or more sized lots?
There's kind of varying zoning in this area. It is an eco area, so there's some FR in the area. It's kind of a hodgepodge, actually.
do you have any information about the adjoining or at least the proximate residences?
You know what? I didn't make that map.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If you guys notice from the packet, we are trying a different format. And I did not include a analysis of the surrounding properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions for staff? Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yes, this is Todd Borgman of Smith Design Group, the petitioner's representative.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you.
Yes, so on behalf of the petitioner, I'd like to thank you for taking out this variance, and I appreciate the planning department's recommending for approval. And to answer your question, Margaret, yes, if you look across the road to the west, there are 2 other 1-acre lots that are available as parcels of record. And if you go about a half mile to the south, there is also a subdivision with similar lot sizes as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else to state, Todd, or are you pretty much?
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do you have anybody else have any questions for Mr. Borden? I don't see any. Okay. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition? Anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Okay, seeing anybody? Nope. Okay. Be entertaining a motion?
I'll make a motion. On case number VAR-21-29, minimum lot size from chapter 833 at 5754 East Kings Road, I move to approve the minimum lot size. And it was also good to see that swimming pool already in there.
I second the motion.
Okay, the vote is on petition number VAR-21-29, Horton minimum lot size variance to the property located at 5754 East King Road. The motion is to approve the variance based upon the findings of fact. Again, a motion, a yes motion is a motion to approve. Margaret Clemens?
I'm having trouble with this one because, you know, the scale of the property just doesn't seem to fit in with the neighboring houses. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay, Rebecca Marchek,
I'm going to vote yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, the variance is approved by a 3-to-1 vote.
All right, thank you, and you have a good evening. Next up, we have case number VAR-21-31, and that's Ann again.
Thank you. So this is the very similar to the last one, Robbins minimum lot size variance to chapter 833. So this is located off of South Night Ridge Road in Perry Township, also zoned estate residential 2.5. So we can't answer this question. Go ahead and answer it for you, Margaret. There are consistent lot sizes along South Night Ridge Road in this area on that same side of the road. So this request came to us because originally we were thinking there might be some setback issues. This lot, the petitioner is wanting to build a garage behind the home. So it was considered pre-existing non-conforming, but then there was some right-of-way taken for 446. So it got even smaller, which removed its pre-existing non-conforming legal status. So this is the minimum variance required in order to add a new structure or expand the home, etc. So this is the backyard. This would be the area that would be have a garage kind of off to the right. Unfortunately, a large tree would have to come down, but it is a reasonable location. So the petition letter does include some information about setbacks. Luckily, we don't need them. So the carport would come down along with the large maple, which would extend the driveway as it exists to the proposed residential structure. So staff recommends approval of the minimum lot size variance to chapter 833 based on the findings of fact.
Anyone have any questions for Ann? No questions for Ann. Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
I'm here, but I have no comment.
Okay, thank you, sir. And is there anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does somebody have a motion prepared?
So in case number BAR-21-31, a minimum lot size variance, I recommend that we approve the request for the variance.
I second.
Okay, I will call the roll on variance number 21-31. Motion is to approve the variance for minimum lot size to chapter 833 for the Robbins property located at 1825 South Night Ridge Road. Vote in favor is a vote to approve the variance. Mary Beth Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Rudy Garitas,
Yes.
Lawrenson,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Variance is approved by a 4-0 vote.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And the next case up is case VAR-21-33A, VAR-21-33B. And that is Tammy.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so this is an Emery buildable area variance for 15% slope to chapter 804, and the Emery Eco Area 1 12% slope variance to chapter 825. It's a 3-acre parcel located in Perry Township, section 24, and the address is 4999 East Moores Creek Road. And Moores Creek Road is here, and this is Swartz Ridge Road. And if you're familiar with Car Top, that little parking area, it's just down here by Lake Monroe. So we are in Eco Area 1. The request is the petitioner would like a 1,300 square foot print home with a 1,053 square foot attached garage to encroach into slopes that are greater than 12 and 15%. And they have also requested a 960 square foot barn in slopes that are in slopes greater than 15%. We do have on file a septic permit. I know it was reissued to relocate it closer to the house to minimize slope disturbance. They have a driveway permit, and then they do have the 2 permits, one for the home, one for the pole barn. So this is a slope map that staff produced. It does show that they're in the floodplain for Lake Monroe. That's that light green here. Their property line runs with basically a stream is their property line. So this is low lying area here. This little green dot kind of represents and confirms about 100-foot setback from the stream. And then we do notice that up here, according to our LiDAR layer, that we do have a bit of buildable area. It's not a lot. And in fact, there used to be a previous house here. So these are the site conditions. This is just a different slope map that kind of depicts where you see 12, 15, and anything that is 25% is in red. So the closer you get up, to the southern corner, the way this is orientated, the south corner here, is likely at the area of least disturbance. And had the petitioner submitted a site plan for the house with attached garage that kind of showed that it was minimizing disturbance, staff may not have had to have brought it here for variances. The pole barn is a different story though, because it is not an essential structure and a waiver is not available for that, for buildable area. These are a few staff site photos. I'm not going to spend time on these because the petitioners submitted some much better ones. But I do want to point out that there is a 42-inch tulip poplar tree on site that their site plan hugs right up against, and that would probably have to be removed if going with their submitted design for this petition. They have submitted a different design. As of yesterday, they submitted 3 or 4 alternative plans, and I'm going to let them maybe present those if they are interested. Okay, so now we get into the petitioner's information. Hopefully you had a chance to read their letter. And they submitted an older photo with the original house and garage on site. And then this might be the first petitioner who's ever submitted drone photos for us, but they came out and they staked out their proposed driveway in red that would go back here to the pole barn. And again, this pole barn is in slopes greater than 15%. This is the house footprint with the tulip tree here in the middle. And then the septic permit, which was previously further downhill, I believe, or depicted on downhill, and has been since kind of pushed up a little bit. And then we have some other, this is the driveway going in. You can see that it is flatter over here. And as you get farther back, you get some steep slopes. Here is another angle where you can see the pole barn and the house here hugging this tree. And again, another depiction of it. This is also the pole barn area here. This is an overall view of the site plan. So you can see here's their attached garage, the house footprint, the 1,300 and some square foot. And then there would be a significant grade change required to cut this driveway in and to also put in this pole barn here. They did supply, and here's something that I will confess. There were several iterations submitted to me, and in the staff packet, I did not produce the most updated version. So the version you have in the staff packet depicts the septic system farther from the house. And in these pictures, you're going to see the septic closer, and you're also going to see there's an electric line easement here. And the electric line is shown in your packet, but not the required easement and buffer. So I just wanted to point that out. So these are the most recent site plans that were submitted. You can see here's the footprint of the septic system. They did include their, well, in this picture, they've got like their construction outline throughout here, what would be required. This driveway, staff, you know, if everything was pushed further this way, we would be minimizing disturbance. This tree right here might be able to be salvaged. It is a very large, looked healthy to me, tulip poplar. And then, you know, we are into not only 12% slopes because it's eco area 1, but, you know, these were 25% slopes that were depicted in our LiDAR. The petitioner also submitted their own LiDAR type slope map. So anything in green are slopes less than 12%. And anything in yellow is, I believe, the 15%, 12 to 15%. So these would, anything in yellow is restricted under Eco 1. And anything in gray, this is anything that's over 15%, which also then, you know, kicks in the Chapter 804 buildable area for structures. But we have seen from the staff's LiDAR that we've got some slopes back here that can be upwards of 15%. So I did include one diagram that the petitioner submitted And it just started to get very confusing. I chose house alternative number 2 that was submitted, where they do show, the house closer to the road, and a smaller, possible driveway configuration. It does take this ghost of a house print away from this tree. This one doesn't really depict any changes for the pole barn at this point, but I wanted to just throw this one up here. I'm sure the petitioners are going to want to present some more material. So staff recommends for both variances denial. And the reasoning for that is there are no practical difficulties. The slope issues could be reasonably addressed through redesign and relocation of the development, building, and structure. And that, I would say, is for the house with the attached garage. We do not see any compromise for the pole barn. It is not an essential structure. Where they have proposed it is very much within restricted slopes. And, we oftentimes allow lots in these sensitive areas in Lake Monroe's watershed to, kind of minimize disturbance. You can have a house. We would support that through waivers if you're minimizing your disturbance. But in this case, they're wanting, what they proposed was to push it, down the slope with a longer driveway, more disturbed area. And, I don't see any kind of compromise for the pole barn at this point either. There's no waiver process for that one. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Tammy? Doesn't look like it. Is the petitioner here? Would they like to speak?
Yes. Hi, this is Katie Stein with Smith Design Group.
Katie, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I have the petitioners here tonight that would like to speak on the alternative plans that Tammy spoke about and clarify some of the comments that were made for those. I myself will speak after him, and then we also have Steve Emery here as well to discuss some alternative findings of facts. So I am going to turn it over right now to Keenan, and I am going to share my screen for him. If I can allow that, please, Jackie.
Keenan, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Keenan.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Tammy, you want to, go ahead and stop your screen share.
Thank you. Okay, can you guys see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Keenan then.
Hello. Thank you for your time. So I just wanted to touch a little bit more on the alternative site plans. Tammy brought up one of them, but basically we just want to kind of run through our decision-making process that has led us to our final proposed location that we also believe will lead to the least amount of site disturbance. So let's start with the proposed location of the house suggested by the planning department, which is also the location of the demolished house in 2007. You can see right here, as well as the demolished garage that went along with it. So
Keenan, your audio got disconnected somehow. Tech services, Jonathan, do you know how that might have happened or what they could do to fix it?
They might have muted their mic on their computer because they have not muted their Zoom.
So maybe in the chat, Katie, I'll send you the phone number to call in and you could just call. And then do we want to move on to other speakers while we're waiting on them? Or how do you want to do with this, Margaret and Mary Beth?
I'm not sure.
She's
We've not
going to
had
call right
technical
away.
difficulties before.
She's sharp. She'll call right away. So let's just keep rolling on this. It won't be long. Don't you think, Mary Beth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like she's coming in.
Yeah.
All right. Can you still hear us, Keenan?
Yeah, they
Okay.
can. Okay. Does she need the meeting ID, Jackie?
Tammy's got that up on the screen, so if Katie can see the screen, she'll be able to see that it's up there.
That's good. The joys of Zoom.
Yes.
Do you have to unmute her phone when she calls in?
No, we'll just admit her as an attendee.
I did admit her.
Okay, can you guys hear us now, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's on speaker right now. It's as loud as the volume will go. Keenan, I'm sorry. Thank you guys for your patience.
All right. Thanks for sticking with us. Okay, so you can hear me all right now?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so like I was saying, oh, that's all right. Okay, so the previously demoed house is of the location that the planning department asked us to build our house. So basically, we came up with a few alternatives. So when we're looking at these site plans, the main factors that stick out to me, the existing site grade, we want to minimize the amount of land disturbance, which is the requirement of Ordinance 825-5A, and also why we chose to do a walkout basement. Also, we need to satisfy the building setback lines. So here you can kind of see that from Swartz Ridge Road, that falls within the setback line pretty substantially. So if that building were to be built today, I don't think we would be able to do it. Also, we should utilize the existing driveway and parking. So this is the existing driveway. It's already cut out to basically being used. We wouldn't really have to do anything to it at all. So the highway department has informed us that we can't move this driveway any closer to the intersection or anywhere on East Morris Creek. So we're pretty much stuck with it here, just about. Also, we need to build a minimum of 35 feet from the overhead power lines. So these right here, that distance comes from our builder requiring 25 foot around the house. And I think that goes for just about any builder. I don't think that it's specific to them by any means. As well as Duke Energy's 20-foot easement, so 10 foot on either side. Okay, so let's go over to alternative house 1. So after we realized that we pretty much couldn't build where they were originally suggested, we started looking at options close to that area or in that vicinity. And as you can see here, on all of these site plans, we've kind of drawn in the proposed house. That way we can kind of compare them as we go. So you can see here that, we're not really utilizing the grade per se. As far as in front of the garage, we've got over 6 foot of grade change, meaning we'd have to do quite a bit of cut and fill. So not really the best option. Also, you can see that it does, the building zone encroaches into the easement just a little bit, as well as it does fall over this steep slope by East Morris Creek Road. So if we're trying to reduce runoff, we definitely want to stay away from that area. Also, you'll notice that as we're going through these, just about, well, all of them at least fall slightly within this 15% or plus. So, we're going to need a variance for any location, it seems. Okay, so number 2 here, changed slightly. You can still see that, we're going to have to make a lot of cut and fill here with the garage. Also, we're encroaching majorly into the power lines, as well as, we're not going to have any parking or drive access because we, like I said, we can't bring this down any. So on to alternative number 3. Although this location does not encroach within the power lines, it really restricts us as far as parking goes. I've drawn a vehicle in here just for reference to show just how little parking there will be. And again, I want to emphasize that, really all these houses, we've, this is how we got to where we are. This is, we've eventually realized that none of these options are, I guess, what we would call the best. So, on to number 4. So as you can see, we're starting to see a trend. The closer we are to the road, the more restrictions we have as far as being close to this slope, being in the power line, restricting parking and driveway. And that's the case on this case. We fall within the 15% power lines and aren't utilizing the grade. Another 5-foot drop there in front of the house. I don't know if I can get that to go away, so I can click on those. There you go. Boy, you're good. Zone 4? No, 5. Yep. Okay. All right. So sorry about that. So this is with the final location, we've moved back only the amount required to be out of the power line setback, and also allow adequate room to pull in and out of the driveway. We don't want to be backing out of this driveway consistently. I think it poses a threat to drivers coming down the driveway and to us backing out as well. Although we have to be partially within the 15% and plus zone, we have placed the house in a way that best accommodates the grade break with our walkout basement. So the elevation change in the house is going to be right through here. And obviously we've set it on that slope to where, it best accommodates that. And in turn, minimizing disturbance. Also, you can see that the grade along the face of the garage is relatively flat, meaning we're using the existing parking grade to the best of our ability, therefore accomplishing our goal of finding the option with the least amount of site disturbance. So I know that Tammy touched on this barn a little bit. When we originally, imagined this barn, we kind of had it back here. We had it a bigger barn,
and we had it rotated, to not really suit the grade change. So we brought it closer, we've rotated it, we've downsized, and even here, we've given an alternative to bring it a little bit closer as well. So if necessary. The drive between the barn and the house will be relatively flat. We did pick a spot behind the house that was, not only the flattest, but at the same elevation of the house. That way, we can kind of reduce runoff, I guess you could say. So just about flat there. And where this barn is, I specifically found the information on that, and I can show you that here on the next slide. Oops, and I clicked it. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I'll have to minimize it again. Okay, that's it. So you can see that, it is over 15%, but it is only 16% in the front and 17% in the back. So really not much more than, I guess the rest of the site would be. So aside from site features, we are worried about safety as well. I guess the first thing would be, if we put this house down here in the corner, it's really going to impede the vision of drivers coming down Swartz Ridge Road, which is, it is a substantial incline. And, just the few amount of times that I've been out there, there's not much around. So cars are already running the stop sign. So I think that would just only add to the danger factor there. And then secondly, we do have a young child, an 18-month-old son, and we have another one on the way. So we are worried about putting the house so close to the road and, allowing them to, be in harm's way. So that's definitely something that we're considering. And while we're talking about, family, we really feel like we've found something special here. A place for our kids to grow up and enjoy the outdoors and the lake. We're avid boaters, so we're really looking forward to that. And I guess that's about all I have to say. So thank you for your time.
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yes, I do.
They state your name and.
Yes. Katie Stein with Smith Design Group.
Okay, I swore you in just a little bit ago, didn't I, Katie?
You did, yeah.
Okay, all right. You,
Okay,
you look
we're
different
good.
on the phone.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I was brought on by Keenan to basically take a look at this site from an engineering perspective. And, they wanted to build this house here and everything. And so one of the first things that I do is just basically get on GIS and take a look at design constraints. And of course, buildable area was the first thing that popped up, knowing that there seemed to be no visible signs of buildable area that would meet the codes. And no matter what he did or anybody else does on this property, it would require a variance. We also look at the site constraints, and that being on this site that Keenan's already touched was the building setbacks as well as the Duke energy easement. So, your constraint as far as where you put your house and that location. The other thing that also is a consideration is the location where the proposed house is, where the demo house is. That area overall is within the 12 to 15%. It's really the flattest overall area on this site. and really the difference between a 12 and 50%, well, it's 3%, but you're not going to tell that necessarily by the naked eye. And it's really hard if you walk on site to go take a look at this. So I did take a look at this site, looked at all the slope restrictions based on the LiDAR. And one of the other things that I did notice is the slope along Swartz Ridge. Well, on top of that slope, as you can see on the site plan that's pulled up, is there are several trees up there. And this, what's on the site plan, the canopies on these trees are much larger than what's shown on here. And basically the rule of thumb is that the root system will go to the end of these canopies. Well, the oak tree on the side, the other trees along the southeast corner are quite significant. And, you know, if you start designing and cutting into those areas, you're going to sever the roots. In turn, it will kill the tree, and then you're going to compromise those steep slopes that are holding this whole entire site up from going onto Swartz Ridge. And I really feel that the exhibits that Keenan has put together, the proposed house that he has put together, are really the best for this site, for minimizing ultimately disturbance. You know, areas that are flatter and you want to put a walkout basement in there, you're going to have to do more land disturbing activities versus the walkout basement where you're building it into the side of the hill. And Keenan's got a background in this. Like I said, he's designed all this. He's really looked at this site as a whole to make the best of this site as possible. So I would absolutely agree with what he has proposed here as being the minimal disturbance to the site, and I think he's making the best out of this this piece of property. So that is all I have to say. I will pass it on now to Mr. Steve Emery. Thank you.
Does anybody have any question for Katie? No questions? Okay, and we have somebody else speaking.
Sworn me in yet.
Okay, and state your name, and do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Stephen Emery, and I actually own this property. I have since about 2006 or 7. I can tell you, I know Katie expressed some concern about this. Tammy expressed concern about this tulip tree here. I've owned, like I say, I've owned the property for 13 years, and unfortunately, I've observed that tree is in the process of dying. Several of its lower branches are barren and have been for several years, and it's very large. It was at one time a beautiful tree, but as it leaves out in the spring, you'll see it's on its way out, unfortunately. And Keenan has told me they want to try to preserve it regardless, but if they can't, it's not long for the world. What's much better trees on the site. This is actually a big walnut right here that probably would have to go if the house were moved further toward the corner. As Katie mentioned, you could, if you move closer to the corner. This is a beautiful oak tree here right up by the road that if you got into its root system in this area could compromise it. There's a nice maple here likewise. So even though this tree may not survive the construction, by locating in this spot, you're preserving many other nice specimens on the site. I'd like to talk about the proposed findings we've submitted, and I don't think they're in your packet, unfortunately. We were scrambling to get this done and just got them over, I think, on Tuesday or yesterday morning. But I'll go through. We have 2 separate sets, one for each of the 2 variance petitions, but they're identical. So I'll just kind of go through one as quickly as I can. Bear in mind they both apply, and I've put it over here for the 12% Echo one, which that makes a little more sense to me. So the first criteria for variance under 812.16 is the approval, including conditions or commitments deemed appropriate, will not be injurious to public health, safety, general welfare of the community because, and number one, would not impair the stability or natural scenic area. By putting the home further from the road and from the setbacks, you're more in keeping with, and this will be a theme I'll mention several times, more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood down there, the area. No one has their home down in this area right up against the setbacks for the most part. There might be one or two where there's a steep slope behind the home or something that pushed it right up to the road, but almost everyone in the area has their home further than the minimum setbacks. And I'm going to switch back over to the site plan briefly. By putting the house in this location, you're minimizing the amount of driveway that would be needed. This was the location of the historic driveway on the property. As you can see from one of the earlier pictures that I think Tammy shared, it's essentially already a driveway. It's flat as can be. This area right here was an apron in front of the demolished garage, which sat right about in this area. And by locating here again, this driveway apron will be on the flattest part of the property, again, minimizing disturbance compared to the other examples that, I'll just shoot one up here that Keenan put up for you. There'd have to be a lot more cut and fill. Well, this one's not a good one because this one's so close right up against the setback that vehicles have to back out onto this downhill southbound lane of Swartz Ridge. It's very, very dangerous, as Keenan pointed out. This one, for example, you've got a lot of grade change here. So you'd have to do a tremendous amount of cut and fill, probably mostly fill, to be able to even access this garage and build a decent apron out in front of it, resulting in a lot more impervious surface and so forth. So conclude, again, the site that's being proposed is the least encroachment into steep slopes and requires the least amount of soil disturbance. So the next criteria is interference with or make more difficult or dangerous the use, installation, or maintenance of existing planned transportation and utility facilities. Obviously, we've got the Duke line, and Keenan explained how the building, we need 25 feet from their easement in order to give any builder a decent construction zone to move equipment around without interfering with the power line easement. Also, as I showed on an earlier, I'll scroll down here. So here's 2. You guys can have a chance to maybe look at that while I'm speaking. The staff's location would be much closer to the road, again, requiring backing out onto the drive and a very convoluted drive, and possibly the destruction of that beautiful oak tree there. I apologize again that we weren't able to get these to you in more, so you could see them more in the packet, but going on down to A3, character of the property, including the variance, would not be altered in manner substantially departs from characteristics, which won't result in an effective rezone of the property. I know you're all very familiar with these criteria. You deal with them every month, but this is obviously a residential use. It's very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood down there at the bottom of Swartz Ridge and Morse Creek Road. There are a number of homes. Almost all of them, I would say, have an outbuilding of some sort. So again, that's very much in keeping. This site, if you were to walk out on it, the area from where this proposed garage is located all the way over to where the house is and up across the driveway and everything, it's almost imperceptible, the change in the slope. We're talking just a very slight, as Katie pointed out, only a 3% difference between 12 and 15 and 15 and even over 15, it really only goes up to about 16, 17%. So there's none of the, even though the LiDAR shows over 20, that's just not the case. Keenan works for a surveying corp company, and they measured those slopes out there 16 to 17%, correct, Keenan? Yeah. So anyway, the house and barn, clear, this is in forest reserve. The whole area down there is rural residential dwellings, so we are not upzoning or creating greater density or more intensive use than what is already in the area. Then on to, well, 4 is a catch-all, and that only comes up if you raise further health, safety, or welfare concerns, which we'd be happy to try to address if you have any concerns in that area. B, and no adverse effect on the adjacent area. The purpose of the ordinance, and when you look at 825-5A, it talks about building that when you don't have a location that complies with the Echo 1 slope restriction, the 12%, which we clearly do not anywhere on this site, as Katie testified a moment ago. What you want to do is minimize the extent of land disturbance. It says you may use other slopes, or you may use greater slopes to the extent necessary to build your structure, but again, with the emphasis on minimizing slope disturbance. And that's what Keenan's well thought out design is doing here. In fact, with all due respect, staff's proposal would result in more disturbance and of the steeper slopes. So we're complying with the spirit and emphasis of the exception that's carved out for the Echo Zone 1 slopes in this petition. Scrolling on down. As I mentioned a moment ago, none of these proposed structures are anywhere on any slope greater than 18%, which I realize that's Echo 3 and we're in Echo 1, but nonetheless, at some point, 18% was deemed okay, notwithstanding the subsequent passage of 804, and these are right in that 12 to 16% range, which again, as I mentioned, is nearly an imperceptible difference. Wouldn't promote anything detrimental.
You've lost your
Looks
audio.
like we lost him, yeah.
Is he gone completely, or?
Yeah, they got kicked off. Yeah.
Ooh, that's not good. What are we supposed to do about that?
Mr. Emery, if you can hear us, we can't hear you anymore. I'm not sure. Okay.
Patient.
Tech services, do you have any ideas for how to get a hold of them, or?
I do not. Unless somebody wants to call them and put them on speakerphone.
What I'm going to do is kind of jar their attention. I'm going to go ahead and just stop their sharing and then help. Maybe that will help.
Because they're still sharing. All right. Now.
There we go. Okay. Mr. Emery, we can't hear you.
You guys have a phone you can call back in on?
Let me see if I have their number. Yeah.
Bernie, we can't hear you either, so you know.
I just called Todd Borgman. He's going to call Katie at the office.
Well, we're here for the long haul. we're here for our community, right?
Yes.
That's exactly right, Margaret.
Up to a point.
I learned a long time ago not to argue with you.
Oh no. No. You must have been talking to my brothers or something.
No, just our existence on the Plan Commission, the BZA. You kind people into submission.
You're sweet. We just hope that we can help more than we hurt.
Yes.
I think while they're getting connected, if the BZA wishes to hear further, or if you have a vote, maybe you could also
or
mention
maybe
that. Yeah,
for
looks like
people
they're
that-
back on.
Oh, good.
Are you there?
Can you guys hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you again.
Okay. They can hear us. I know. I don't know what happened.
Are you prepared to continue?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. For some reason, the phone disconnected. Anyway, I was about to conclude.
Tech services, would it help if they eliminated their video?
Power line, the easement setback.
I doubt it because our video is not stuttering.
Point out, a kind of a peculiar characteristic of this property.
We're having troubles hearing you, sir.
Right here, even though it shows a steeper slope, that's because this is where the old garage sat that was demolished. And there's a pile of rubble that sits right in this area. Are we on?
Katie and Steve, we can hardly hear you.
Okay. Anyway, this.
Steve, we can't really hear you.
You can't hear us?
Could you move the phone closer, please? Lose them again?
Could I recommend that we take comments from the audience or from other members, either in favor or opposed to this petition while we wait for the sound and the audio issues to be resolved?
Sure. We can probably, it's all right for us to do that. Is that correct? Larry?
I think that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
Hello?
Hello, there you are.
Okay, we're terribly sorry, technology and all that. I think I've pretty much addressed everything. I hope you've had a chance, and I apologize. I know I've been flicking them on and off here to take a look at our proposed findings. I think that the testimony of Keenan Matthews and Katie Stein, as well as myself, support these findings, and just as a general conclusion that we have shown really quite convincingly that this is the best possible location for the home, and in fact is superior to the location or locations proposed by staff for this thing because of the site constraints and all the other issues, safety, the need for a variance at some location, the maximizing the utilization of the flatter areas here and the steeper slope in this area to minimize soil disturbance and land disturbance with respect to the construction of the home. So if there's any questions for me or Katie or Keenan, we'd be happy to entertain them.
Does the board have any questions for them? Don't see any. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? I see none. I do have a question for staff. Now, if we approve the appeal, if we approve it, does that cover the house and the barn, or can we do the house and the barn separately?
I would suggest that you do the house and the barn separately.
All right, does anybody have a motion?
I've got a couple comments. I think that, I mean, looking at the way the site plan is laid out, I do think that it's the least disturbance when you look at that property as a whole. If you look at where the house is and that tree aside, pushing it back out away from the roadway, allowing that driveway to come in with the steepness of Swartz Ridge Road, it really does look like that house fits better than if it was tucked away up next to the roadways. The first thing I noticed when we were talking about the driveway that goes back to the barn, it pretty much follows the contours. It's only on that east side of the pole building where those grades have to be made up. And if that building is the width of the pole barn 24 feet? Am I correct?
Yes, that would be the slab, 24 by 40.
So it looks like the slopes on the east side are probably put in at a pretty close to 3-to-1. So maybe 10 to 15 feet in total width from the barn out to where the disturbance line stops, which, I mean, that's reasonable. And pole barn construction is a lot less intrusive than a lot of other building types. And I think just the due diligence of the placement of the buildings and the fact that we've got alternate findings of fact shows that I think that the petitioners put a lot of effort and thought into where they're wanting to place this. The other thing with respect to the pole barn and the building in and of itself, I mean, when you look at a property like this, and I don't know this, but I can imagine there's going to have to be some small equipment, mowers, maybe a small tractor that's going to have to go somewhere. This is this is an area where they're going to have to maintain property. And I think that building, I don't see it as a luxury, I guess. I see that as something that keeps things like that under cover and stored so they're not placed on the property, out in the open, up against the house with tarps and things on it. So again, I'm satisfied that they've done their due diligence, and I do think that for what they're putting on the property, it is the least amount of disturbance, as Ms. Stein said. That's my thought.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I can make a motion.
Okay.
Okay, in the case of VAR-21-33A, Emory buildable area, 15% slope variance to chapter 804. Which would be the home. Is that correct, Tammy?
They're both for the home.
How would we separate those as you suggested for the building and for the, that's what I'm trying to figure out, your suggestion.
To include or not to include. I mean, I guess you could make one motion, and if you include the house, you include the house, or the barn. You include the.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just do one motion here. I think it gets too confusing if we try to separate it out the way the cases are written. So in the case of VAR-21-33A, Emory buildable area, 15% slope variance to chapter 804, and petition VAR-21-33B, Emory environmental constraints overlay area 1, 12% slope variance to 825. I do believe that practical difficulties have been met and that we approved the variance based subject to the staff report and based on the petitioner's alternate findings of fact.
You going to add the recommended conditions, Bernie?
Yes, thank you. Provide a stormwater pollution with the following condition. 1, provide a stormwater pollution and prevention plan to be approved and administered by the MS4 operator coordinator for Monroe County. 2, provide a drainage plan for the structures. And 3, install fencing for the 42-inch. I'm going to eliminate number 3. I don't think that tree is going to survive. And I think that the proximity of the house is not going to allow that. So I have 1 and 2 as staff has it in the report.
So we're leaving the pole barn on the site plan?
Yes.
Just for clarity's sake, can we get a statement from the petitioners which site plan we're approving? Since we have several. I mean, I think they were trying to go through that, but I think we may have lost them during the time.
Yeah, so it's the one on the right there.
And that is, just to confirm, that's the one I was referring to as the one I thought that they would build.
And can you name that so that there's no confusion, like site plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something?
Do we have a page number?
It's the one in the staff report.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Thanks, Larry.
Anybody wish to second the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is on petition VAR-21-33A and 33B, Emory buildable area variance and Emory eco area 1 variance respectively for the property located at 499 East Morris Road. The motion is to approve the variance subject to the conditions to provide a stormwater pollution and prevention plan approved and supervised by the MS4 operator, and provide drainage plans for the structures. And also install silt fence according to the stormwater and pollution and prevention plan. Again, a vote in favor is a vote to grant both variances based upon the site plan submitted, shown in the report, in the staff report. Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen?
Yes.
Barbara Clemens?
Yes.
Vasquez Marchek.
Yes.
Both variances are approved by 4-0 vote.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have case number VAR-21-34A and case number VAR-21-34B. And this is Tammy.
Yep, last but not least. And thank you for not continuing that last one. I was on a roll there for a minute. So this is the Tishner front yard setback variance to chapter 804 and the Tishner minimum lot size variance to chapter 804. This is one lot of record, and it is 0.11 acres in Benton Township North, section 34. The address is 9394 North Derritt Drive. It is lakefront property yet again. Had a lot of those tonight. The proposal is to do a 3-story footprint home, 1,335 square feet. The lakefront setback here is 25 feet. They are proposing their structure to be 10.5 feet from the property line, which is a 14.5 foot encroachment. Additionally, because they're not meeting all their setbacks, the minimum lot size for SR is 1 acre. So they do have to, staff determined that they need a minimum lot size variance. There are a few considerations with this lot. There is floodplain that comes across it, and it is a small site, and they have proposed an off-site septic, off-site driveway, and off-site parking area for this site. So this is site conditions, and the property lines are so off out here. This is what the parcel layer states, and really in reality, after, we've had a more professional site plan submitted, that this is more accurate of a depiction of this property line. The blue line here is elevation contour 635, I think. It's roughly the floodplain that comes up here. While we're on this page, there is a structure here that straddles the property line, and it was partially on the petitioner's site and partially on City of Bloomington site. They did a memorandum of understanding to demolish that together, which is in process. I saw that when I was doing the site visit. I also just want to note some of this is 15% slopes depicted here, and the septic is proposed to be somewhere in here. It will have to go through this steeper ravine area to reach that. So some of the site conditions, you can see Lake Monroe, or I'm sorry, Lake Lemon here. This is facing due south. This is facing west. This is the existing, it's like a utility shed that is blocking the view of the house that's there currently. Let's see, and then this upper picture to the right, things I wanted to note was, like, we do have some trees on site. There was not a plan submitted as to if they were going to try to save those or not. I don't even know truly, because this wasn't a staked out site when I was there, if this is City of Bloomington property where the tree is located, or if it's their property. So staff has kind of tied that into one of the conditions of approval. This is me darn near standing in the lake, looking up at the existing home that's there that they would wish to demolish and build the 3-story home. This is an interesting, the bottom photo, one of these flags is a drill hole soil sample site for the septic, and way out, it's like about 330 feet away from my estimates, is where the house is. So they will be obviously pumping uphill to get to this offsite septic location. It has not been, for the last time I checked our OpenGov permit site, it had not been approved yet. This is just, it's still in process. So here's a few aerial views. This is the existing home on the petition site. This is a house that is being demolished currently. And then just to note that we've got an incredible grade change that comes through here. I think you're at 800 feet here and ends up at like 630. So you are, that's a good grade change. And this was the most interesting one lane driveway where you're supposed to honk here and honk here so that you don't encounter anybody on that stretch because there's nowhere to go. This is, I think, also the reason why staff had looked at possibly doing a type E subdivision with this lot. And it's because of this access easement and the adjacent parcel to the east, it does not have access through that driveway. And I think they're pretty positive that no other neighbor out there is going to allow any more additional traffic on this driveway. So this is the site plan that was submitted. I highlighted their proposed structure in yellow just to kind of see that. And then we've also got the blue line where they delineated floodplain here. They do also have a proposed deck. And if that remains under, I think it's 30 inches, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, I think it's 30 inches. That does not require a building permit. We don't quite consider that a structure. So that would be allowed to encroach. So yeah, the gray area is their actual buildable area for the lot. This is where the driveway comes in here. They will have some parking. So you'll see that the parking does kind of slop over onto the adjacent parcel. And this is not correctly depicted here. The septic is about 330 feet where all the soil samples that I saw flagged were located. City of Bloomington obviously owns to the south here. And then we did find the septic permit application online, and I found this diagram in it that, you know, by estimations looks about like 330 feet. This is kind of an interesting little ravine that'll have to be maybe have a bore under, I'm not sure engineering wise how they will accommodate getting everything up there, but, and the petitioners do own this adjacent lot. It is 11 acres, which seems like a lot, but from a diagram that was submitted many years ago, because this property has a about 2-inch thick file, honestly. You do see that you've got 0.77 acres down here for buildable area, 0.15 acres buildable area, and then up at the top, 0.72 acres of, you know, slopes less than 15% where structures could go. The petitioners are planning to take up some of this buildable area with an offsite septic system, which is a bit of a, we think of a future issue for developing this possible 11 acres. If they build up here, it's not an issue. We're not sure how they will access this because they don't have this driveway easement to gain access to these two bits. You know, ideally it would have been great if this was all one lot of record, but the deeds turned out that it was two. So they may be putting a driveway down to this area if they want to access this lakefront property. And then I have this parcel size map, which is frankly confusing, I think, because the petitioner's parcels, their 11-acre lot is divided into several little parcels. And so those are being depicted here. I can confirm that a couple of these are small lots of record, but some of them have same ownership, and without doing extensive title work, I can't determine if it's one lot that's consisting of several parcels. I almost just didn't put this in here. So staff actually does recommend approval for this. We do find that there's a hardship with the size of this lot, and that encroaching into that lakefront setback seems reasonable, but we're going to tie 6 or 7. There are 7 conditions, and darn it if I can't read this one down here. So the first condition would be to submit a drainage plan for review by the MS4 coordinator with the building permit application. They currently do not have a building permit application submitted. So when they do submit, we're going to expect a drainage plan. We're also going to expect a stormwater pollution prevention plan, the SWIP. with that application process. We would like to submit a plan for any tree preservation or removal signed off by a certified arborist, including protection. We want to see the protection of any trees located adjacent to this parcel. So the city of Bloomington trees in particular, we want to make sure that those, are marked on site and protected in any way possible. Parking, the driveway, the septic located on the adjacent parcel shall be included on the adjacent parcel's deed as a recorded commitment or an easement prior to the issuance of permits. I'll be interested to see how that comes about, but we just want to see some sort of like easement or record that there are easements for this other parcel to utilize it. Even though they are owned by the same people, we always try to think 50, 100 years into the future, and we don't want to end up with some kind of mess out here. We already see the parcel line so awkward. Number 5, we have prior to the start of construction, the licensed surveyor engineer will clearly mark the construction limits with respect to the city of Bloomington property lines, the base flood elevation contour of 635.1. Should they have to encroach into that or add fill or add anything, a floodplain development permit will be required. So far, it looks like the structure is not encroaching into that. So, we don't need a buildable area variance from the floodplain at this point. A tree conservation area, including drip line, will also be delineated on site. And then staff will inspect those boundaries and the installed SWIP measures prior to the start of construction. So get that all set up prior to digging into the earth. The petitioner is to enter a written commitment that no future variances from the design standards shall be sought with respect to any future development on the property located to the east. That's the 11 acres they also own. A written commitment must be recorded prior to issuance of an improvement location permit for the purposes of the residents and shall run with the property.
The next slide, Tammy, go to the next slide. Okay, I put it on my version. I'll pull my screen up, hold on.
Thank you.
If you'd like. I can read number 7 if you'd like.
That sounds great, thank you.
As-built survey, including an elevation certificate required prior to the certificate of occupancy being issued.
Yes, that's a great idea I had. We just want to make sure that they built it exactly how they said they were going to. And because there's floodplain next door, right there, right there, it'd be great if they met the first floor elevation requirements for floodplain as well, so they don't get dinged in the future by any kind of bank or mortgage lender that would require floodplain insurance.
Mortgage lenders will do that.
I hear about it.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Tammy, may I ask a question?
Okay,
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is Dave. I had a question about condition number 6. Have you discussed that with the petitioner, and are they willing to do that commitment?
Right. There was some discussion with Mike Carmen about this, and I think he wants to discuss it further here.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, I would.
Yep.
I would like to know, I guess just, I don't understand the purpose of that, so.
I would ask Larry Wilson that one.
Okay.
But it's because there is such limited buildable area on the other site. It's almost like because you're willingly and knowingly taking away buildable area from an already limited site, it doesn't seem like it's fair to come back and ask for more buildable area variances in the future from setbacks, or because you're already taking it in this for the purposes of developing this lot with the size septic system that they're requesting and such.
Yeah, I just wonder, because you said there's a couple other buildable areas on that site. And if they sought a variance relating to one of those other buildable areas, I guess I'm concerned about how that commit would impact that.
Yeah, perhaps it's just this 0.77 acre that seems most relevant.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I've got one. If Tammy, go back, if you would please, to the conditions. I had a question on number 3. So submit plan for any tree preservation or removal signed off by a certified arborist, including protection of trees located adjacent to the site. So is that just the site where the improvements are going to be, or it's not clear where those are supposed to be done? And if they're not proposing any tree preservation, then they don't have to submit a plan. Is that correct?
I believe the plan was to.
Well,
Hey,
my concerns are really for the trees that might possibly be owned by the city of Bloomington, that are on city property, that are very close to the property line. At this point, I don't know. And I don't think that those trees should be impacted by the construction here. And if it is going to be, I would like a certified arborist to say, like, there's no way around it. We're going to have to take this tree down. And maybe we could add to this condition that if one of those city trees does seem like it's going to be impacted, that there should be trees replanted in its place.
Okay, well, and then the other, I had a concern about number 6, but since there's 3 attorneys in the proverbial room, I'll let them discuss that.
I'll let you guys discuss that one because I was a little apprehensive on it too.
all right. Any more questions for Tammy? No? Mr. Carmen, are you with
Thank you.
us?
This is Mike Carmen, representing the petitioner, and the petitioners. I have been online and not seen them most. Tim petitioner there, and I think John may be hidden behind from view, but I'll try and keep this short. This issue of the pollution protection plans has come up actually on a couple of petitions. I think on your last one, I think it was popped up as another condition of approval. So with regard to the conditions 1 through 5, I'll say generally those are acceptable and we can do that. But, and it's not that we're opposed to them, but for another day, and with Larry online and Dave online, I think you're signaling to the commissioners that you want ordinance changes. If you're going to start imposing development standards as a condition of approval when the development standard has nothing to do with the variance being requested, and this is a front yard setback variance. So these standards have nothing to do with the setback. They have to do with how you want to see the lot developed. That really ought to be done as an ordinance change, not as a case-by-case ad hoc petition in front of you approach. But that said, with regard to this petition, it is a small site. It's very near the water. There are a responsible development of the site on this will require these things to be done. And the petitioner has no problem doing these things. The plan, the drainage plan, and all that's fine. But I would submit as a general proposition, you ought to be starting to address some of these points to the county commissioners requesting ordinance changes, because you're really imposing development standards that are not otherwise required. But that goes to 1 through 5. Now, I would say the question came up about number 3, and my interpretation of that was that what this condition was asking for would be only those trees that would be impacted by the development, not the circumference of the property site. It shows that we're talking about addressing trees that would be believed to be or potentially impacted, and therefore have it checked first to see if there's going to be an impact, and if so, what can be done to mitigate that impact before it occurs. So that's the way I interpret that condition number 3. Number 7 is not a problem. So this brings us to number 5, the one, or number 6 rather. I'm sorry, the one of interest. And Dave actually has raised the question that I was preparing to raise with you. Number 6 is not appropriate. The decision on a variance on other property, not this property, should be left to you as the BZA or your successors, a future board, because there's no plan right now to do anything on that lot that would require a variance. And we don't know if and when a variance would ever be requested. But if it is, then the BZA existing at the time should be empowered to make that decision to say yay or nay, not have it had his hands tied by your decision tonight. And I think that's what Dave's concern is. This condition basically supplants the law on and deprives of future BZA, whether it's you or your successors, of the opportunity to review facts, review a petition, and make a decision. That decision is being made for you tonight if you impose this condition by saying it can never be requested. And that's not appropriate. It is almost 11-acre patch. I mean, if we cannot trust you as a board, whoever the members may be, to review a variance request and make an appropriate decision at the time, then what are we doing? But that's really what the effect of number 6 is, to take that opportunity out of your hands. And I would object to that. That's not appropriate. That one is not related to this site. That is not related to this petition. The rest of them, 1 through 5 and number 7, we certainly we can accept those, and they're for development on this tiny spot, they're appropriate, and whether ordinance ought to be done or not, they certainly are appropriate, and we certainly would comply with those. Would ask you not to require condition number 6 as not being appropriate for this petition. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Carmen? No, thank you, Mr. Carmen. Does anyone else wish to speak on behalf of this petition?
I'll respond on number 6. I agree that that's probably not an appropriate provision, but it really was a placeholder to have this discussion, because we have a history of people going in and building buildings on the site and then having to come back later and say, oh, I've got to move this closer to the lake because I've taken up all the buildable area for parking or a septic tank. And so I just want to make a note for the future memory of the BZA that there's 7 acres here, and they should design it so that the septic tank goes in and the parking area goes in, and there's still adequate buildable area for whatever house they want to construct on the 11-acre site. That's my only point. And I thought the best way of making that clear was putting in the provision that would get everyone's attention so I could make it clear what my concern is. My concern is if you put that septic tank in the middle of the buildable area and they come in the future and say, oh, we have to move this house closer to the lake because the septic tank is in this location. Just for the record, they need to locate the septic tank in a manner that they can still put what their house is in the buildable area. So it's not really keeping them from asking on a variance. It's just making sure that any hardship that's created by the location of the septic tank and the parking area is clearly a self-created practical difficulty. And that's my point of raising this issue at this point. I agree that provision needs to be taken away from the conditions.
Thank you, Larry. Okay. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yes, I would. This is Todd with Smith Design Group.
Hi, Todd. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do this once.
Yes. So yes, we have started some type of design work on the property to the east, and we already had the soil test back for a second septic, and we also have a semi-house plan, and the current septic for this property will not interfere with either of those.
And you're saying you're not going to have to ask for any variances?
No, that is correct.
All right. Thank you. Anybody, any questions for Todd? Okay. Anybody else here wish to speak on behalf of this petition? Okay, anybody here wish to speak against this petition? Does anybody have a motion prepared?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Bernie. I was just hoping you would do it.
Okay, in the matter of VAR dash, VAR dash 21 dash 34A, petitioner front yard setback variance to chapter 804, and VAR dash 21 dash 34B, petitioner minimum lot size variance to chapter 804. I move that we approve the variances with the following conditions. 1, submit a drainage plan for review by the MS4 coordinator with the building permit application. 2, submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan with the building permit application. 3, submit a plan for any tree preservation or removal signed off by a certified arborist, including protection of trees as may be necessary located adjacent to the site improvements on the subject property. 4, parking, driveway, and septic located on the adjacent parcel shall be included on the adjacent parcel deed as recorded as a recorded commitment / easement prior to the issuance of permits. And that parcel ID number is stated in the staff report. 5, prior to the start of construction, a licensed engineer / land surveyor will clearly mark the construction limits with respect to the city of Bloomington property lines, base flood elevation contour 635.1, and tree conservation, including drip line. Planning staff is to inspect boundaries and the installed SWPPP measures prior to the start of construction. And 6, as-built survey, including an elevation certificate required prior to the certificate of occupancy release, based on the staff report and findings of fact.
I second this.
Okay, I'll take the roll. Take the vote. The vote is on petition number VAR-2134A and 34B, petitioner front yard setback variance and petitioner minimum lot size variance to chapter 804 for 9394 North Garrett Road. A vote in favor is a vote to approve both variances with the conditions 1 through 6 as amended by the motion. Again, a vote in favor is a vote to approve with the amended conditions. Barbara Clemens,
Yes.
Mary Beth Marchek,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Both variances are approved by a 4-0 vote with the conditions set forth in the motion.
All right. Any reports?
Good night.
Thank you. Do you have a good evening, Mr. Carmen?
Good night, Joel. Thank you.
It's been a long one.
Thank you.
Any reports? Anything? No?
I just want to note that we did, I'm interested in getting your feedback, not necessarily now, in regard to the new reports we have as far as whether that's adequate or you feel it serves the purposes of the BZA in reviewing the petitions. It certainly saves a lot of staff time. And I think we still can get the essential information out of having all the proposed, without having like multiple pages of proposed findings.
I concur.
Other than that, we'll see you in June.
All right, we'll see you in June, and everybody have a good evening.
And we do have a new member, if Jackie has not announced that yet.
Skip Daly is joining us, yes. He actually messaged me and asked if I could give any advice or whatever, and I told him, best advice, watch the old meetings.
It was probably it was a good thing that he wasn't here to be the deciding vote.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
Bernie, you have something that you want to add?
Just quick, what's next month's petition agenda look like as far as the quantity of petitions, other than the 15 or 16 that we continued from tonight?
Oh, yeah, I think there's only 3.
Okay, I was just curious.
We-
Staff
we-
did a good job. These were tough petitions and tough
We
petitions.
had 3 come in today, so I don't think,
Oh, God. Okay.
so we'll see.
Well, I look forward to seeing you. So thank you, everyone. It was nice to see everybody today.
Nice to see you too,
Thanks,
Margaret, as
everybody.
always.
And
Yeah.
I'll comment on Margaret's that we are dedicated to the community. I'm sitting here with a 99.8 fever, chills, and a sore throat. So I'm glad the meeting's over.
Do you want
I
some
heard you
soup?
sneeze
Should I bring
earlier.
you some soup?
I'm gonna go get some.
Oh, I
Nice
sure
work,
are.
Vicky.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
good
Feel
night.
better.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.